Good morning, everyone. We're just going to check and make sure that we can be heard in the Zoom webinar. Matthew or Jake, are you able to hear us?
I can hear you well, Sam. Thank you very much.
Terrific. Okay. So with that, let's see, make sure. Yes. Okay. So Chair Crandall, we are ready to begin on time.
All right. Let me get the gavel. I don't usually slam it down, but I have it here just in case. Good morning and welcome to the special meeting for the Board of Supervisors on August 30th, 2022. As customary, we will conduct a moment of silence. I would like to offer a moment of silence for John Stephen Alvarez Sr., who passed from a car crash on August 22nd. There's a lot of car crashes on Highway 20, and at times it's overbearing. We need to work on some
recording in progress.
We need to work on some of the crosswalks and things of that nature. There has been some work that was looked at before. It's time to reinvigorate that so we can prevent some of these accidents and save lives. Mo, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Let me begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So it looks like consideration of items, extra items not appearing on the posted agenda. It looks like we have one. CAO Parker. Is that?
I'm sorry, I was going to pull 5.3. I didn't have any items.
Oh, the extra item. 4.1. It's the Ford Explorer. Oh, is that for? That's from the sheriff. Okay. So I'll just read it off. Consideration of extra item. Consideration of purchase of 7 2022 Ford Explorer police pursuit vehicles from Redwood Ford in the amount not to exceed $340,500 from the Sheriff Pursuit Replacement Budget Unit 2217, Object Code 62.72, and C, authorized Sheriff Coroner or his designee to sign the purchase order. And so I'd like to see if, first off, if the board would like to take this up.
Speak without the stick.
There you go.
The speaking stick.
Go ahead, Supervisor Sabatier.
I think this is something that the sheriff needs, but I will say that I have a little reservation of it being an extra item for the fact that they did receive all of these bids. I believe it says on the memo on August 9th, which has given them 20 days to put this together. That's my only kind of issue, but yeah, we do need to make sure that our fleet is up to date. And I'll leave it at that for now because I don't want to speak too much on the item itself.
All right. I'll open it up for the public briefly to see if there's any comment. Or, sorry, Supervisor Simon, go ahead.
No, it's
no one in the public in the chambers I'm not seeing, or on Zoom. Let me look. I got better. Make sure I put there it is. And I'm not seeing anyone.
If I may correct myself, I mistakenly said it was received by August 9th. Bids were sent out to 5 vendors on August 9th. There is no date for when it was received, so I take that back. I apologize. Misread, as I only saw this morning.
Okay. So I opened it up to public comment and I brought it back to the board. Close.
So did you make a motion?
So I move to approve this as an extra item, as this came up, a need to get this accomplished before the next posting of the next agenda, and did not know about that until after the posting of this agenda.
All right, second.
All right, so the sheriff is here. Should I have him speak before we vote on it, or? All right, no. Okay, so I have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries, so we will take 4.1 up. Let's get through a couple of these, and we'll get to it here in about a good 20 minutes or so,
I think the
hopefully.
longer the dog stays, the more likely the dog goes home with someone.
So you want to?
I'm just kidding.
Okay, because I'm willing to do that. All right, so next is the approval of a consent agenda. Consent agenda items are usually non-controversial. However, any board member or public citizen can pull these to discuss further. And from what I'm seeing, we have a couple that need to be pulled. So far, I'm seeing 5.3, 5.6, 5.5, 5.7. Those are the ones I've been notified of. Are there any others? Supervisor Sabatier.
Mr. Chair, I'd also like to pull item 5.8 and 5.10.
5.8, 5.10. All right. Any others? I will open up to the public to see if there's any that need to be pulled from the consent agenda item, consent agendas. I'm not seeing any. Bring it back to the board for action.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve items 5.1, 5.2, 5.4, 5.9, and 5.11 and 12 from the consent agenda.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and motion carries. So we are at 9:06, so we can go ahead and do our 6.1 Lake County Animal Care and Control Pet of the Week. And so here, there you
Good
go. The floor is
morning.
yours.
My name is Haley. I'm an officer with Lake County Animal Care and Control. With me this morning is Poppy. Poppy is an approximately 5 to 6 month old Pyrenees mixed puppy. She does have one blue eye, so we're not sure exactly what's in there, but she's definitely beautiful. We like to call them Lake County specials because they are definitely special. She is already spayed and ready to go to a new home, so with an approved application, she could theoretically go home today. We do also have her sister Piper, who is of the same age. They came in together. They were running in the highway with their brother. Their brother has already been adopted. Poppy is a little timid, that's why she's crawling across the floor, but she's definitely good with other animals and everybody that she's met. So she's definitely going to be a good spot for anybody's new family. She's a character.
Adopt me.
But if anybody has any questions regarding Poppy or Piper or any of the other animals we have currently animal control, they can either come and see us at 4949 Hellbush Drive, or they can give us a call, 707-263-0278.
And you can also see Poppy on the website, right?
Yes, we do have all of our animals listed on our website currently. Piper is her sister. She's in kennel 34. Poppy is in kennel 30, and they are both ready to go home.
All right.
Awesome.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Nope.
Stay.
Poppy wants to stay and work it. Gotta go home. All right. We'll move on to our next item, which is public input. It looks like we have a couple. There's one online here. I'll just go ahead and read it out. And then we see we have Greg has turned his in as well, Greg Bianchini. But I'll start with the one that I received on our e-comments, just briefly. From Donna Michaelwitz, the Keys Property Owners Association represents 830 homes in Clear Lake Oaks that are on the water and facing extremely high vegetation management issues. They have developed a long-term action plan, permits, and contract with waterworks and homeowner cooperation to tackle the invasive creeping water primrose, but have been limited to funds to be successful. Please consider waiving the County of Lake permit fee as we all work to help keep the lake clean and healthy. The Board of Directors can be reached at the info.keyspoa@gmail.com or phone Director Ed Legan, 702-497-8938. Thank you. So that's from Donna, and then Greg, if you would like to come to the microphone and speak. I got your form here, so public input.
Good morning. My name is Greg Bianchini. I live on 13th Avenue in Lucerne. I'm here today to have a complaint for any positive change. And I want to start off with thank you for listening to us last week with the harm reduction. Thank you very much. I've asked any positive change to move off 13th Street in person and in writing. Her truck is set up in the street with tables, chairs, equipment, coolers. The doors are wide open in the truck too. It's in plain view of the children and the public. It seems like Anita does whatever she wants, and then she also does whatever she doesn't want. I think our kids should come first, always. APC needs to move to a safe area, not next to the Tower Mart store where all the kids and residents shop at. There's homes, families with children, and elderly residents that live on 13th Street. It's really dangerous for the families and the seniors and the kids. I'm just asking you if you could just get her just to move off 13th Street and set up somewhere it's safe. I know these people need help and everything. You know, the drug users need help. And what I did last week is I went to social services and I picked up a pamphlet. Anybody can go into social services in Lower Lake and pick up a pamphlet, and they'll help you fill out to get medical aid, a food card, housing, and they'll help you. They're really nice people. They've helped me before in the past. And also too with the syringes and stuff, Anita is not the only place that you could get syringes from. I've got a box sitting on that table right there that I just bought at Walmart. I've been buying syringes there for over 3 years now. My best friend is a diabetic, and his name is Rookie. He's 12 years old. He's my dog. So I give him injections. So anybody can buy these syringes. It's not like she's the only place you could get them from, and they're really not that expensive. They have gone up in price, but you could just, so anyways, if she could just move to a safe place where the kids don't have to see this happen. Like when the Girl Scouts were here a couple months ago, I wouldn't even talk about any positive change with the kids here. And then, but then tonight they could just walk down my street and their truck is right there. I mean, you can't miss it. It stands out like a sore thumb. So anyways, the kids shouldn't have to see this. That's my biggest thing. And thank you for helping me. And that was really nice what you guys did with the Girl Scouts. That was fun having them here. That was nice. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Is there anyone else that would like to provide public comment? I don't see anybody online. So I will bring it back to the board and move on to our next item. Let's see. 6.3, presentation of proclamation designating August 31st, 2022 as International Overdose Awareness Day. Supervisor Sabatier will be presenting this proclamation.
Please come on up.
I
You can go back to the podium if you want to, but for now. So about 6 months ago, I had a conversation or via email with the sheriff asking from the coroner's perspective, what are our top deaths and reasons behind deaths? And the number one was overdose. I believe it was in the 60s. I think it was 67 for 2021. As we've been discussing it in this past week, we've had some great conversations. It's tripled compared to what it is triple compared to what the state average is. We have a problem here in Lake County, and we have to be first aware that we have the problem, and then we have to try to solve the problem and do what we can. And unfortunately, these are not things that we can just slide under the rug or hide away from. These are family members, these are friends, these are community members, these are people we see every day. I've seen people who were very successful in their life, and then 6 months later, I see them and they are completely different individuals. This can really hit everyone and anyone. It crosses all boundaries. And so I wanted to bring back, we did this last year. I believe that Director Metcalf was the initiator for this, and I wanted to make sure we didn't miss it again, because it's very important as we see ourselves in the highest levels of all the stats when it comes with overdose deaths. So today, we are doing a proclamation for International Overdose Awareness Day 2022. Lake County Board of Supervisors, Behavioral Health Services, and Lake County Health Services recognize Wednesday, August 31st, 2022 as International Overdose Awareness Day. Whereas International Overdose Awareness Day is recognized globally on August 31st to raise awareness about the risks of overdosing, honor the individuals whose lives have been lost from overdosing, and acknowledge the grief felt by families, friends, and communities. And whereas International Overdose Awareness Day aims to publicly challenge the stigma associated with substance use disorders and overdosing. And whereas in 2019, over 6,000 Californians died from a drug overdose, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. And whereas in 2021, according to County of Lake Coroner's report, I'm being corrected here, is 73 individuals who lost their lives due to overdose in Lake County. And whereas every person deserves our best efforts to prevent injury and death from overdose, and it is imperative to support overdose prevention policies and projects, and to help make sure everyone understands overdose is a social issue which impacts the victim, families, friends, and communities. Whereas the County of Lake Board of Supervisors, Lake County Behavioral Health Services, and Lake County Health Services urge all residents, parents, public and private organizations, hospitals, schools, and colleges in Lake County to support efforts that will increase community awareness, understanding, and action to address drug overdose. Now, therefore, the Board of Supervisors for the County of Lake join with the Lake County Behavioral Health Services and Lake County Health Services departments and do hereby proclaim Wednesday, August 31st, 2022 as International Overdose Awareness Day, signed and adopted on this day by our board chair. And I know that there was some festivities in Lucerne, or was it Nice? In Nice over the weekend for this, so I'll let you speak on that, and of course, all of the services that are available for those that are seeking help.
So April Gamper, Lake County Behavioral Health Services. I was going to respond and accept this proclamation as a employee of Lake County Behavioral Health Services, but what I'm going to share is more along the lines of my personal experience during the event. I'm sorry. I sat there with my 13-year-old niece as she learned how to administer Narcan because my brother overdosed. I also participated because my brother-in-law overdosed. I am the only person in my family who has been able to stop the use of drugs. And this event empowers and encourages and educates individuals on how to not just be there for each other, but for the ones that they love and themselves. And so, although I will turn off my emotions in a moment and speak as a county employee, I just wanted to say that it was a moment I will never forget as my 13-year-old niece learned how to administer Narcan and use a face mask to protect herself from fentanyl in the event that she had to save her dad's life again. So, International Overdose Awareness is just that. We come out in the community, we collaborate with our partners, and we seek to educate individuals about not only the problem, but the resources that are available. Our department is working closer than ever in collaboration with, I was extremely impressed. We didn't really have a great turnout, but what we had was partners upon partners upon partners who took the time to learn about what each other was doing in their own initiatives to help improve our community. And that, to me, was a closer sense of collaboration than I've seen in the 10 years that I have been with the department. So with that, I would like to say thank you to all of the partners who attended. And even though we've chosen that day and that event to acknowledge these events, I think it's important that we carry these into everyday activities, everyday awareness, so that we can make an impact. So again, thank you.
Thanks, April. Tough act to follow. I do want to thank Supervisor Sabatier for bringing this forward. I kind of got wrapped up in this event that happened on Saturday and forgot about the proclamation. This is huge. As April said, though this is one day out of the year, August 31st, International Overdose Awareness, we want to make sure that it is observed every day of the year because, as you know, in our community, this is a pretty big issue, and we're doing the best we can to address it with the programs and services that we provide. So thank you. Thank you for giving us the time to speak on this.
Here, which way am I going here? All right.
Oh, perfect. This works. Okay. Well, one more. There we go. Thank you.
Thank you for presenting that. Is there any comments from the board? Anyone from the public would like to speak on this? Come on up.
Hi, I'm back again. I'm Greg Bianchini. I was addicted to drugs at one point in my life for five years. I did a little bit of cocaine when I was younger. I think I started when I was 15 years old. The biggest thing to do is just don't start, and because it'll lead to more problems in your life. Literally, I was an addict for 5 years. I lost everything. It was the worst thing that's ever happened to me. I actually moved up to Lake County to get away from my problem. I moved up here from the Bay Area. But the biggest thing is just don't start. Don't put that pipe in your mouth. So once you put that in your mouth, it's so hard to stop. I literally OD'd. And the doctors told me I was lucky I was alive. So that was it. And then I got some help. And I stopped, and I've been clean now 15 years. But that's why I moved up to Lake County, to get away from drugs and to clean myself up. And I love this county. Lake County is awesome. But the biggest thing is just don't start, man. You just don't start because it's so hard to stop. I don't know what we could do about that, but that's what I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Maybe you can speak with Todd and find out a way to help him out. Thank you. Is there any other public input on this? Not seeing any online, so I'll bring it back to the board. Go ahead, Supervisor Sabatier.
I just want to thank Ms. Gambra for sharing today. I think that it's easy to say don't start. I think that's always great. We should try that for sure, but it's harder to stop than it is to not start. And for those who do stop, it takes great courage and great strength to be able to break out of that trap that people fall into. And we know many of those people, and many of those people are actually helping right now to help those that are currently still in that trap because they've experienced it and they understand it better than most. So definitely, my heart goes out to all of those that have been in that trap, that are in that trap, and I'm thankful for those that have been able to find a way out. And again, thank you for sharing.
I'm going to expound on that. I appreciate you sharing that as well. A lot of times, we get so caught up in the everyday business, we don't, talk about our personal experiences. One thing that I can state that's a very interesting fact is the unit that I was in OIF, 2004, I got out of the Army, came home. In my unit, nobody had passed away. We had 1 or 2 injuries here and there, but no casualties. But I come home, and since then, at least 170 people have passed in the community at large. So everyone that I know in my community or in that realm since 2004 has passed. I would say 5% are elderly, but the rest are either overdoses. I would say at least 33 to 40% overdoses, and the others are damage from usage, if that makes any sense. So either dying early because of their abuse or overdose. I know of 2 or 3 this year already in the community. And so it is very important that we focus on these, because a lot of people that get addicted, most of the time they don't realize their tolerance or what they're getting. Recidivism happens. People go to get help, and they stop for 4 or 5 months, and when they start back up, they think they could use the same amount that they did before, and then bam, it happens. So it is important to administer Narcan and have those tools available to save lives. So I know at times it may seem in some of our discussions that it's probably projected that I'm not sensitive to this issue. I am very sensitive to this issue. I just want to ensure that we're doing it in a balanced way. So again, a very important subject. Thank you for presenting this, and I'm glad that we're talking about it. All right. So with that, we'll move on to our next item. 6 point, wait, no, we're a little bit ahead, so we'll try to do one. 4.1. Let's do 4.1 since the sheriff's here. And so this would be, we already did the consideration of the item, and so consideration of purchase of 7 2022 Ford Explorer police pursuit vehicles from Redwood Ford in the amount not to exceed $340,500 from the Sheriff Pursuit Replacement Budget Unit 2217, Object Code 62.72, and authorize the Sheriff Coroner or his designee to sign the purchase order. And so with that, we'll give the floor to Sheriff.
Thank you. I wanted to come and offer an explanation as to why this had to be an extra item, and assure you that it wasn't because of a dragging of the feet of my staff. In years past, the vehicle vendors, Ford and Chevy, in years past have opened up bidding opportunities that have sometimes lasted 3 or 4 months, where they would announce that they were accepting bids for fleet vehicles, and that has changed as of late. I'm sure it's attributable to the lack of availability of vehicles. For example, Chevrolet opened up the bidding opportunity for Chevy Tahoes for a period of less than 24 hours this year. And Ford opened up their bidding opportunity on August 15th and said they would be open for 2 to 3 weeks. We responded August 19th and sent out bids to 5 dealers for purchases. We started receiving those bid quotes back on August 22nd and 23rd. And of course, here we are this week, and this would be the 3rd week, and we don't know if it's going to open or the bids are going to close today or by the end of this week, because the time frame that was given to us was only 2 to 3 weeks. So that's why this had to be an extra item, simply complying with the purchasing ordinance and the policies within the time frame set forth by the vendors would not be possible. With that, we submitted bids to 5 vendors, 3 of which responded. The low bidder was Redwood Ford, and there's a spreadsheet that attached the agenda item that shows the different prices that came in. It would be staff's recommendation that you approve the purchase of 7 2022 Ford Explorer police pursuit vehicles from Redwood Ford in an amount not to exceed $340,500 from the Sheriff Pursuit Replacement Budget Unit 2217, and authorize the Sheriff Coroner or my designee to sign.
Supervisor Sabatier?
Thank you for bringing this. You mentioned that if we don't do this, that you might find yourself with a lack of patrol vehicles. What's the status of your patrol vehicles? Are you down, or are they just really, really old? Because I don't have any information. And so that's my first question. My second question will be, can you please provide us a list of your vehicles so we can see what is the age what is the status of those vehicles, just so that it coincides with the request of new vehicles to show these are the old ones, we're going to be replacing those, or if you need new ones on top of the ones that you have.
It's a combination of both. Both are old and some need to be replaced. For example, we had one that came in that was, I think it was over 100,000 miles and required $3,500 worth of repairs to the engine due to aging out. We have a list available of all our vehicles? Not today? Okay, but we can make that available.
Okay. And I hope that in the near future, because it looks like we have 13 years and counting, that we might figure out what our game plan is here, where we can no longer buy gas patrol cars, gas-powered patrol cars. That's just something that I hope that we can discuss sooner than later, so we can try to figure out what the plan is.
Yeah, that's going to be a whole nother issue.
I hope they have greater mileage capacity for the 12-hour shift.
Supervisor?
Yeah, the only follow-up to, the game plan moving forward on either hybrid vehicles or some match there. I know you guys were going to be moving into that realm, start looking at those opportunities. I think the only difference with the hybrid vehicle, obviously you get the electrical mode, does have a little more horsepower, so, than a gas vehicle, at least what I've seen in those makes. So, let's hope they come up with a solution, because it's going to be very important that we do that for all of our fleets. So, but glad you brought this to us today.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone from the public have any comment or want to come and make an input? No. I'm looking online. I don't see any hands up. All right. Bring it back to the board for action.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the purchase of 7 2022 Ford Explorer police pursuit vehicles from Redwood Ford in an amount not to exceed $340,500 from the Sheriff Pursuit Replacement Budget Unit 2217, Object Code 6272, and authorize the sheriff, coroner, or his designee to sign the purchase order.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff Martin. So we're at 9:31. Looks like we can move on to our 6.4, hearing on account and proposed assessment for nuisance abatement at 11630 Barrel Way, Clear Lake Oaks, APN 035-26233, property owner Ara A. Thomas. It looks like we have our code enforcement manager and Norman Valadez III here to present this item. Oh. And the Community Development Director, Maria Turner. Like RG3.
Exactly. My thoughts exactly.
Put it on the driver's door, NV3.
Sorry.
Okay, so we're ready. So yes, if you're here on this item as a member of the public, or if you are part of this property, the owner of this property, please swear in with Johanna.
Okay. With your right hand raised, do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. Thank you.
All right.
Good morning. Good morning to the board. My name is Marcus Beltramo. I'm the manager of the Code Enforcement Division for Lake County. I'm accompanied here today by our code officer, Joey Valdez. He was the lead officer. Upon completion of an abatement, we come before the board to give an account and then offer a proposed lien for approval by the board. The property in this case is 11630 Barrel Way, Clear Lake Oaks, California. As always, we always give context, an idea where the property is located. It sits above Highway 20, kind of northeast or northwest of Clear Lake Oaks proper. It's an R1 property. It's a single-family it's zoned single-family residential. It's a single-family dwelling with a detached garage, and it is in close proximity to Clear Lake. On May 28, 2020, we received numerous complaints regarding this property. It was initially involved in a fire. The main dwelling incurred fire damage. After that, that's when the other issues associated with this property started. On June 4, 2020, we issued a notice of nuisance in order to abate. We cited several violations on the property, one being unsafe structure for the dwelling that incurred the fire damage, a condition dangerous to human life, unsafe, detrimental to the public health or safety. One that was for the structure, two that was for the miscellaneous items, materials, and junk stored throughout the property, making it a hoarding situation. Items causing unsightly appearance visible from a public right-of-way or scenic corridor or provides harborage for rats and vermin. And violation of the open and outdoor storage code. They did not maintain the issues on their property in compliance with the open and outdoor storage codes. So obviously the photos speak louder than any words I can give to describe it here today. So we're going to go through this. There's a lot of pictures. I want to give have the board get a full understanding of what we saw on this property. Again, it ranged from inoperable vehicles to pretty much everything. They did have a pool. They tried to take the junk or the materials, put it into the pool. They thought that would help clear up the issues. Those items were then pulled from the pool and spread around the property. On September 15, 2020, we did a site inspection. On August 6, 2021, this division decided that we needed to move forward. They issued the second notice, giving the owner full due process, making it clear to her the violations and the issues that needed to be corrected. The violations are similar to the initial notice served on the property and the property owner. Again, the property devolved. It continued to devolve from our initial notice. Campers were moved on. Additional items were brought on. On March 21st, 2022, there was a second fire on the property that affected the detached garage. So the primary dwelling incurred fire damage, and then the detached garage also. April 8, 2022, it was determined the site was still in violation, and we needed to move forward with the abatement process. The owner refused consent to allow us permission to perform the abatement. We had to obtain a warrant and go onto the property with our contractors. Here's a photo of the detached garage that incurred the second fire damage. This picture right here is of the roadway. So the issues actually were spilling off on the property onto Barrel, which is my understanding is a county-maintained road. It's a one-way road, therefore emergency vehicles, other vehicles could not access it due to the issues occurring on the property overflowing onto the roadway. On May 3rd, 2022, after no progress, it was made clear that we had to move forward. The abatement started on May 9th, 2022. It took about 3 days. Joey had to stay on the property 3 days with our contractors to eliminate all the violations and the issues occurring on the property. On May 11th, it was deemed the property was brought into compliance. So these are photos of our contractor clearing all the miscellaneous items from the property. And I do want to state the property owner was present during the abatement. She was allowed to get whatever personal items or things of value off the property and to keep for her own And this is when the property started to get cleared. As you can see, a vast improvement. That's the roadway that I initially referred to with the cars and the miscellaneous stuff on there. That was cleared. This is the driveway where you saw the inoperable vehicles and other miscellaneous items. This is what the property looked like afterward, after all the miscellaneous items and materials were removed. Again, the items went around the whole pool area, stretched from the driveway all to the house to the backside of the property. On May 13, 2022, the structures on the property were both deemed to be dilapidated or unsafe, unfit for human habitation. Both dwellings were red tagged. They had been continuously red tagged through the process as the fires occurred, but we put new red tags on there. The purpose of this is to let everybody know that those properties are still red tagged and unsafe for human occupation.
Wait, can you go back? That last sentence, the property is starting to accumulate more open and outdoor storage and other violations already?
Yes. So the property was brought into compliance, and I would say for about maybe a month, maybe 2 months, and then it started to evolve back to what has become its original state. It is getting worse, and we have to contemplate what our next actions are going to be. I think this issue goes beyond code enforcement, and we have to look to other avenues to maybe rectify this situation and prevent this from getting to the state that it was, where we had to abate it. This, in my opinion, was our worst property in the county, and this property affected all the residents in the neighborhood. It attracted people, transients, people that didn't ingratiate themselves to the neighborhood, and was just a problematic property for a long period of time, and it's starting to devolve back to the state that you see here.
So Marcus, so if the two structures are red tagged and uninhabitable, what's the plan? Are they going to be condemned? What?
So this is something I've been mulling over for a while here. Initially, I wanted to board up the main dwelling, hoping that that would push the people who were staying in that property out. Obviously, they just formed tents and other things to stay on the property. They then cut a hole in the roof, so even if I board up the structure, they can still get into the dwelling. And it's a pretty big size of the roof that was cut out. They claim they're putting in a skylight, but I don't believe that to be a pragmatic or practical case there. But we need to examine this, and we need to figure out what we're going to do. They have been red tagged. We have to, if we do put up fencing, that is a cost issue. How long is that fencing going to be up? How do we afford it? How we keep? And then at the end of the day, they can still hop the fence and get through to the backside of the property. So there is a plan that needs to occur, and a more comprehensive strategy that ends in a permanent resolution to bring this property into compliance and also restore the comfortable enjoyment, life, and property of the people living in that neighborhood. Again, I stress this was a major issue for this area.
Is the property owner living on site?
The property owner is living on site. She was recently arrested and booked into county jail. I'm not sure of the status right now. I also want to mention below the property is a Department of Transportation staging area, and they would dump their trailers and cars in that area, and we repeatedly have to go out there, tow things from that area so that Caltrans could get in there and stage and do the work they need to do. So again, not only affecting the overall neighborhood and community, but public services.
Ms. Grant, did you want to make a statement?
I was just going to say that when it comes to things like fencing and trying to preclude people from entering the property, as Marcus pointed out, it's not going to stop people, but it also could very likely be a gift of public funds, because that's not an abatement, that's an addition or improvement to property. One of the things your board might consider is whether a civil action for nuisance abatement is called for in a case like this, to receive orders from the court that will be more far-reaching and possibly, though not necessarily, more definitive.
All right, thank you.
The cost of the we hired the contractor, Cook Construction. He's one of our contractors. that were on our contract list and approved. The cost of the construction was $15,423.17. Administrative costs amounted to $2,070.26. I apologize. We usually provide weight about the amount of tonnage that was taken off the property, but to date, this would be the biggest abatement we've done. And so staff recommends the Board of Supervisors confirm the assessment of $17,493.43 and direct staff to record a notice of lien against the property after recordation. It shall be delivered to the county auditor, who shall enter the amount as a lien on the tax assessment roll as a special assessment. Again, the cost of the abatement services are for the contractor, $15,423.17. The administrative costs on this case amounted to $2,070.26. That concludes our presentation.
On this invoice, it says 24.07 tons, 35 tires, scrap metal 9.35 tons. So just
sounds about right.
All right. Any questions from the board? Supervisor Sabatier.
Since it burned twice, well, two different buildings, twice the same property, is that correct?
One fire occurred in the main dwelling and a second fire more recently on the detached garage, and power was cut. PG&E came out and looked at it as well.
Because, I mean, I know it's not something to automatically do, but if there's fire damage and we're seeing accumulation of garbage and people living in a dwelling that obviously they shouldn't be living in, what's the status on maybe looking at I know you spoke of demo, but for both of those buildings so that we at least kind of negate the ability to use it as a makeshift shelter with a skylight?
The main dwelling appears to have, it could be repaired. It does not need to be demoed. The garage is something that we'd have to talk to our building safety division about, get their opinion on, and then go through those processes. The property owner has expressed that they wish to get a permit to repair it. I'm not sure how realistic that is or viable.
Especially as the violations are starting to reoccur.
Yes, and again, this property, I do want to mention, is a magnet. It does attract problems.
Is she out of jail, or is she back at the property?
She's on Zoom right now.
Oh, okay.
Well, as a whole, we're here to say, consider the charges here for the cost of the abatement and the work of staff. I know you're working on this, but I would suggest that we need to add fines to these types of things. We are doing the work of homeowners and property owners and not adding anything on top which does not, it's not conducive to a changing of behavior where we just take the responsibility for you and take the action to clean things up versus we clean things up and you have to pay extra for forcing us to have to do the work for you. So I don't know if it's possible. We do have administrative fines available to us, and I'm looking at Ms. Grant. Can we add, based on the number of days, can we add fines today? Because I want to make sure that there's a sting in what is happening, especially as we're observing more nuisance accumulating on that property. Not fining just means you'll take care of it for me in the future again. Don't worry about it.
I don't believe you can add fines today because that wasn't part of the notice. However, you can come back and add fines.
If the rest of the board is up for it, I would not mind doing it. And I know that, just to kind of add a little bit, part of the reason we're not doing fines is we're waiting for our third-party RFP to complete so that our third party can take the process for us in order to deal with the fines. But I think for some of these issues where we're already seeing reoccurring as we speak, that we're not changing and I see it as a mismanagement of government funds when all we do is clean up and clean up and clean up. We have to get a behavior change. And I think this one, if we're seeing the issues where people are living in the building still and it's accumulating more nuisance issues, that we have to do more than just what's here. Just my opinion for the board.
Supervisor Simon?
Does Anita have a
Grant?
comment?
I was just going to say, just for your information, it appears the property taxes are being paid on this property. So the property owner does apparently have some funds.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
The only follow-up question I have was, Anita, you mentioned another process that we may be able to go through. So absolutely on the fines, but I think there may be one more step that we haven't taken that we should really look into with this property. So if you could elaborate on that.
Absolutely, sir. A public nuisance can be addressed through the administrative process, which is obviously the one that's occurring right now. It can also be addressed civilly and/or criminally. But again, you obtain a judgment through a civil nuisance abatement, which gives you a lot more flexibility in terms of collection. Not that the county doesn't have considerable flexibility in Chapter 13, it does. But you also can ask the court for certain orders that are available within the confines of the law. And in this kind of a case, given that you're hearing from code enforcement today that this is the worst that they have ever had to abate, and now it is just simply continuing, this might be a very good case to take civilly to court, and my office can certainly do that. If that's something that your board would like us to look into, we can do that, and provide a report to you. Just generally, obviously, if it's going to go to litigation, that would be a confidential attorney-client communication. But just generally about the viability of this action when the matter comes back with regard to fees being imposed, fines rather.
I think it would be a good step to make. And the reason I say this is because I know that some of these property owners or people that pay the taxes but don't take care of the property, they're very keen to the loopholes. They work in the same circles, and so I think with something like this, it would be a good start, and they would see the sting and possibly start making other, well, stop doing it, you know, so, yeah. Any other comments?
I appreciate the potential pathway for going the civil route. I would say that would be my last ditch effort to do that, and I think fines, I would prefer we go towards the pathway of fines. We have that available to us. We would just need it to come back with the fines attached to it. And I say that just for, I know that it was offered to do so, but I know that it could create a level of capacity that at this moment in time, I'd like to see what the fines would do for us, since that's a much simpler process. But that's just me.
I think the fines are fine, too. Ms. Grant, go ahead.
I would just clarify, the fines would be for the continuing nuisance conditions now, not for what your board is deciding today.
Because there was no notice of...
There was no notice, and due process is particular that way, so.
The process started prior to, I believe, the enactment of the new, okay.
Gotcha.
Well, that wouldn't necessarily matter, but the hearing today, and it's a continuing violation, so the fines would be completely appropriate moving forward.
All right. I think there's someone by the name of Madam POTUS. Is that her, Johanna? Did you swear in, what's her name? Aura? If you can unmute. If you can unmute, we might need to swear you in. She came on probably after.
Chair Crandall, for your awareness, I've sent multiple notices asking the person to unmute, and thus far they have not accepted either.
Okay. Well,
You're on a cell phone, star
her
six.
hand's up. Star 6, if you're on the cell phone, press star 6.
Doesn't seem to be the case.
Well, maybe we can ask her to send some sort of letter in writing or something if she, Ms. Grant?
The property owners should be given some chance to speak at this hearing.
Okay. She's just not unmuted.
Kim's gonna call her back.
Okay.
Okay, how about now? Can you
There,
hear
we
me
can
now?
hear you now, yes, if you can.
Okay.
Did you swear in by any chance?
Yes,
Okay, all right. If you sworn in, then we would love to hear what you have to say.
I have my right hand in the air.
Oh, okay. Johanna, if you can conduct that for us.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
I do.
Thanks.
All right. Go ahead.
Okay, so the situation regarding my property is a little more complex than it has been presented. I believe that the county bears a legal responsibility for part of the cause of the need for the abatement. And the reason for that is that I was incarcerated in Sonoma County Jail. And during that time, there were multiple squatters on my property. In fact, code enforcement has displayed pictures of some of the squatters' vehicles, including one RV, including one green Lexus that belonged to the people that were staying there. They took it upon themselves to just move into my home when I was incarcerated. And the sheriff's department came by and told them that they couldn't make them leave because of COVID. Once I did obtain 5 different restraining orders against these individuals, I asked the civil department to serve them and explain to them that they had a move-out order. It took 3 attempts with different sheriff's deputies to get them to tell the squatters that they also had to leave. Getting enforcement for any kind of restraining order that I've had has been near impossible. I actually have spoken to Marcus Beltramo, who is, I'm assuming at this hearing today, sounded like his voice, regarding Tony, whose name is Anthony Rubart. He's currently in custody for multiple violations of restraining orders. Also on potentially rape charges, because I would call the sheriff's department and they would say, well, what do you want us to do? When I would report that I'd been assaulted, I had had a violation of a restraining order. I've had people who have been working their asses off, pardon my French, to do the things that you see in those photographs. My swimming pool being full of trash, not something I did. Not something I did at all. My property being secure, it's secure at this time. I need to finish the chain link on the front of the driveway, and then we'll be able to, shush, sorry, dogs. Then I will be able to say that it's completely secure. I would like Marcus to address the flyer that I saw that was printed out on county letterhead that said that the property listing my address is not to have anybody there, and if they see anybody past these certain hours, that they need to call the sheriff's dispatch and advise them that there are people there. I mean, have they ever done that before? Or is it just me?
Done what? Saying there's a
Printed
flyer.
out on county letterhead that nobody's supposed to be at this residence, it's red tagged, and to call the sheriff's dispatch if they see people there.
I'm still not quite sure what the question is. The letterhead, yes, and the action that if it's a red tag, that you're not supposed to be there unless you're actually fixing the issue of the red tag is one thing, but are you saying that you called the sheriff and they didn't show up, or are you asking if the letter gets sent out to other people? Like, I'm not quite sure what the question is.
So yes, I mean, I have claimed, and I do maintain, that the sheriff's department is woefully inept at doing any kind of policing or enforcement that benefits me. The only policing and enforcement that they do regards them coming to my house to contact me about being in a property that I own. Basically, that flyer that code enforcement printed on their county letterhead listing my address and stating to any of my neighbors, please call the sheriff's dispatch if they see people at the residence, has rendered it very difficult for me to make the necessary repairs. Now, I have a contractor who we are going to abate the garage, abate and rebuild the garage. And yes, the polycarbonate lenses and panels that will be the roof for the center of the house, since I don't need a gigantic 3,000 square foot house when I don't have any children or husband anymore after all this, to participate in a house with me. Yeah, that's actually feasible. And I have a contractor for that. Thank you. Do I have unending funds? No, not at all. I have like one retirement account that I need to cash out to make these completed repairs. I will say that also that I have repeatedly requested of code enforcement, how about a dumpster? How about you pay for dump fees? They're not willing to do that, but they're willing to hire a third-party contractor to the tune of nearly $20,000 to abate all this stuff that was, what did you say, 9 tons of scrap metal? That's recyclable. That shouldn't have been included in a tonnage amount for waste. And it's things like this that have just baffled me throughout this process. I'm not some wanton, careless, abandoned individual in the community, or a detriment to the community, as a sheriff's sergeant told me one day when they came here. It's the sheriff's department, I believe, that's really initiating a lot of the targeting from code enforcement. Marcus himself told me that they had called him to come out to my house. The sheriff's department did. And during that visit, they abated vehicles that were parked in my driveway and operable. My personal Subaru, they took that. They took a trash trailer. They took a vehicle that belonged to Anthony Rubart, who was in custody at the time and had no means to do anything about it. I'm just like, I'm beside myself with what to do about this. I have a trash trailer now. I work on it every day. I don't know what to tell you, except that I feel like when the county comes by and systematically targets me, I feel like you bear a legal responsibility in this also. And as for it being the worst property or with the most tonnage, I don't know how in the world we exceeded the property that was on Lakeview in 20 that was also abated, and also what you might call a magnet for riffraff. I know that I don't have riffraff at my house. I don't have anybody at my house if I can help it, because after all this, I just, are you kidding me? I just want to build my own island and live on that. I can't think of anything else to say at this time. I was arrested. Yes, I was arrested on false charges. And then I was released after not being arraigned, after being in custody for 4 days. When I got out, my motorcycle was stolen for the 4th time. My catalytic converters were cut off the white Tahoe. The Sheriff's Department does nothing to police my house during my absence. And so the red tag and the aggressive removal of the one person that is able to police it, which is me, how is being homeless safer than being at a red tag residence?
Is there anything else you want to add to that?
I can't think of anything else at this time, but if I do, I'll be happy to unmute myself.
Well, I have a question for you briefly.
Sure, sure.
When you either take a vacation or have some sort of situation where you need to leave the home, do you have someone that you can have watch your house, or is it just you yourself?
It's just me, myself.
Okay.
At this point, yes.
All right. Because it takes longer than 4 days to accumulate the amount of garbage that's been there. So I don't know how, like that tonnage amount of garbage can get there, 24 tons can get there in 4 days.
I'm not saying it happened over 4 days.
Okay.
I'm just saying that just during the last incarceration, which was 4 days, I had a motorcycle stolen. I had catalytic converters stolen off my Tahoe.
Okay. I don't have any other questions. I don't know if anyone wants to address any of that or has any comment. Is there anything else you would like to ask, or?
I would like to add that the property currently has a lot of debris around it because we have to remove all the contents of the garage which was full when it burned, to be able to do the necessary work for it.
Okay.
I feel like I can't have anything in my driveway, anything in my yard, like at all. And also, when the abatement occurred, I told the contractors multiple times, like there was a generator that they needed to not take. There was a play structure that belonged to my daughter that they needed to not take. There were building materials. I mean, I can't count how many times the things I said, no, this is being put aside, that they did just take it anyway. And then also there was damage to my property.
Okay.
That's all.
All right. Is there anyone that would, okay, Supervisor Sabatier or Supervisor Pyska? Sorry, I'll go with her first.
I guess I have a procedural question about these liens. Do they have to be paid before there's a building permit issued?
That's a good question.
I'm not aware of a code or a statutory obligation that the lien be paid before issuing a permit. The building department can withhold the issuance of a permit for violations, and they have that discretion whether to issue the permit or not. But I'm not aware of the lien hindering or limiting the ability to obtain the issuance of a permit, a building permit.
Ms. Grant?
That was another question that I had, was whether or not the county is able to waive the building permit fees so that we can proceed with some of these matters.
I don't think that's going to be something that the county can do in this situation.
So the county can charge me $20,000 for an abatement from a third-party contractor and put a tax lien on my property, but they can't put a tax lien on my property for building permits?
All right. Supervisor Sabatier?
Quick question, and I don't think it damages anything here, but I'm just, there's something that caught my eye when I was looking at the attention, final, and last notice on our attachments. It provides the homeowner's name and the homeowner's address that we're talking about, but then underneath that it says a different property. Are there two different, I know Widgeon Way is right next to that. Are there?
So that was an error. Basically, the letter did have the wrong address. We were issuing multiple notices at that time. Ora Thomas did come into our office at that time. I handed that notice directly to her. She caught that mistake. I informed her that the notice was for her property and was specific to her, and had a verbal conversation with her in that regards.
Is that the right or the wrong case number?
I'm not sure what case number is on there. So there were numerous complaints that came in. So there could be, at the time, they didn't have a system in place to just attribute one case number to one situation. Our case numbers are our arbitrary way of keeping track of these complaints. So the one issue, though, is the address was wrong on the letter, but again, it was given to Ora Thomas in person at our office and explained to her that, yes, the address was wrong, but the intent, the other documentation included, I believe a copy of one of the notices of nuisance in order to abate was part of that package, was given to her and told her that this was her last and final notice to correct the violations.
It's not the same one.
That is.
And
1 second.
I
Go
would
ahead.
like to ask Ms. Grant, because in my mind, I think we need to rectify that, since it has a case number that may not be the right case number with an address, and it's an official document, and I know that it's nice to have storylines that match throughout the whole way, maybe a memo that explains, I don't know, but just kind of looking at Ms. Grant for the support of this document for any further actions that may happen.
I think that the final notice that was presented, your board may want to inquire if in addition to saying this was about this property, which was verbal, I'm assuming the notice itself wasn't just hand corrected, which would have been a good idea. But the notice contained the information about this hearing today.
No, this was,
2021.
looks like it was a notice for abatement.
That last, if I may comment?
Go ahead.
The last and final notice is not a formal document. It's a courtesy notice that includes copies of the notices. It's just giving her one last notification that, hey, this is going to happen, and if we do the lien, it's going to be recorded as a lien, or if we do the abatement, it'll be recorded as a lien against the property. The two notices of nuisance and order to abate are the formal documents.
And again, I'm looking at Ms. Grant for legal validity.
If the other notices were correct, if it's a series of mistakes, I'd suggest you put it over and make sure that notice is pristine throughout. if that's not the case and the actual notices that were sent. But when someone is notified and they're told that they have an opportunity to challenge this, and they're told, I'm assuming, that the date and time of the hearing here for confirmation of costs. Is that correct?
No, this is a notice prior to the abatement. This is not an
Okay.
assessment notice.
All right,
It was
okay.
the last and final to get them to clean it up themselves.
All right, what I'm trying to establish here is constructive notice, which can exist notwithstanding errors in the written document. However, if the property owner did not have time to make any of the self-abatement processes available to herself at the time, and then arguably that might have been an effective notice. If the property owner was demonstrably aware that this process was occurring, I believe that Mr. Beltramo testified she was on site at one point when the abatement was occurring. You may be able to establish constructive notice of all of this process. Quite frankly, the best thing to do would be to go back and review all the documentation and what facts are in support of constructive notice before moving forward, because Supervisor Sabatier is raising a significant question that needs to be either thoroughly addressed, but it can't be an anecdotal response.
I see. I know that this letter on April 11th has the proper address and enforcement number, and the letter before that was the no nota, I guess you call it. I don't know that it doesn't have a date on it. I don't see.
Maybe on the backside.
That was 8/9/2021, right? And then after that was this letter that Supervisor Sabatier is talking about. It's September 16th. So yeah. It says the address properly on top, and then on the property and case number, it's different. So
Yeah, and the case number is different. It's supposed to be 0426, and here it's 390. I'd like to see that corrected, just to make sure that our documentation is as clean as possible.
Should have brought my rollies for this.
And I hope that we can bring this back. Hello.
1 second.
I hope we can bring this back ASAP, because I want to approve this. We did the work. We've been waiting since June of 2020 for them to get the work done. I know that there's been some scenarios where they were incapable to get the work done, but there's 365 days in a year, and since June 2020, we've been waiting for that action to be taken. So got to take responsibility for what we decide to own and decide to do in our lives, and this responsibility has not been taken in the way that I would like to see it be taken.
So we'll go ahead and, if you have anything else to say, Aura, please go ahead.
I mean, I guess that for matters, the issue of the abatement being performed is it cost that much. Not sure what the administrative costs are for, but I'm entirely opposed to any type of fine. I would like Marcus to address the flyer that my neighbor was kind enough to photocopy and provide to me, and ask if he can cite if there are any other Lake County residents that he has performed that for, and if so, how many. But I guess that in the same vein of the abatement already being performed and the costs already incurred, same is true also for any kind of civil case that I might levy against the county, which I do for both for the systematic targeting, the sheriff's department, multiple false arrests, plea false, and feeling like my property is one of numerous red tag properties, especially along the scenic Highway 20 corridor. We've been talking, me and some of the other property owners, it turns out there's a number of us. Whether or not they've had to incur abatements of this magnitude, I don't know, but I know that something's wrong when that's going on. Either the board needs to consider pilot program for assisting our probably not the most impoverished county in the state. It's second or two in all mortality.
Ma'am, you're kind of going off subject
Demographics
here.
and also impoverished. I know, but the board needs to consider doing a pilot program to help people
Ma'am,
with.
we're talking about
building
your property. I
permits.
understand there are programs that need to happen, but we're talking specifically about this. You're not exempt from accountability on this. There are other properties that are very similar to this, and we can talk about pilot programs at another time. So we'll go ahead and,
Yes, we could do that. So, I mean,
Grant?
all
right, so
I guess that I would ask in my own civil case for relief of my, yeah,
okay, thank you.
that's it.
Ms. Grant?
Yeah, you're welcome.
I should tell the board that from the description and just a quick scan, I don't believe the errors in the notice are fatal to any of the processes that have occurred here. If your board, and certainly it's something I understand your concern when that information is inconsistent in a document, to have that cleaned up and have a more thorough review of what I've just said. If your board wants to consider just putting this over until the 13th, then that information can be provided and your board can determine whether you find it satisfactory.
Supervisor Sabatier?
And I would state with the words that we just heard, I think that's the more prudent way to go.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Supervisor Simon?
No, I'm in agreement with that.
All right, so what we'll do is come back with this on the 13th.
Do we need to make a motion to that effect?
Yes, sir, with a time certain. That way the department won't have to renotice.
So we'll address the administrative.
Just to make sure, 3 votes is all that's needed for this? I believe so.
Yes,
I just want to make sure because I will be absent on that day.
Yes, 3 votes. Alternatively, your board can put it over longer if you wish, but it's up to you.
And
I'm not worried about that.
Clarification is what you're looking for, and that's what we're going to do with the moving it forward, so.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure there wasn't a requirement of 4 votes where I
Yeah,
would not be here.
4/5.
But
When are we going to address the fines too, now that we're pushing it, or is that going to be separate?
I think the fines, would we be able to address those at that date, Ms. Grant?
We can address the issue of fines as a subset. In other words, this could be A, the fines could be B under the same item. If the department has time to issue notice about the potential assessment of fines for the more recent activity. I don't know how long a lead time you need for that. The notice would have to be 10 days, so.
The consideration of fines is for any infractions going forward.
I'm sorry, right now, we're
discussing
you
this.
need to wait your
We
turn.
need to put you on mute for a second, please.
Sorry, Chair.
No, it's all right.
I'm sorry, what is the question?
About the fines, do you need time to put those together, or would you
So
need
if
further?
if we issue a notice of violation, we have a certain time period that they are allowed to correct those violations. I'm not sure, what are we, 2-3 weeks out from September 13th?
I think 2 weeks.
The notice of violation would still, the correction period would still be in place by that time.
The process for moving forward with fines and the potential for that process could, however, be presented to your board so you'd understand next steps on the 13th, with the department then moving forward if your board approves that plan of action.
Supervisor Sabatier?
I'll try not to be too specific since that's not the subject we're talking about today, but if we can get an information on the procedure for fining now, and then the procedure on fines when we get our third party, that way we can implement them ASAP and make sure that we try to get that behavioral change. I think that's what I'm looking for, just because there may be some hiccups in the RFP, there may be some delays in the RFP, but we do have it within our nuisance abatement ordinance that we can do fines, and we just have not yet, and I'd love to see those happening.
Ms. Grant?
And then if your board by consensus wants to indicate direction to staff that you're fine with them proceeding to assess fines for the current nuisance conditions, and bring the procedure back to you on the 13th, or do you want to wait until you've reviewed the procedure before you give direction? Again, by consensus only.
I'm fine if you can,
I'm fine with that.
if that's manageable. If it's manageable, then I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
All right. So it looks like we'll come back to this on the 13th. What time would be a great time?
I guess 9:30 is our
9:30.
standard time there.
All right, we'll do 9:30 on that date. To come back with what was stated. Go ahead, Supervisor Spotted.
I just want to make sure we check with Johanna if there's any other public hearing at that time.
Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
Okay.
So September 13th at 9:30?
And I just want to be clear, what exactly are we to bring back here? A corrected
Yeah,
last and
corrected
final letter?
documents, yes.
Yeah.
And so we serve that on the property owner opposed to go through our normal procedures?
Yeah.
Right,
I think we can do that.
okay.
I do like the idea of the civil route. I believe that this property is a good candidate for that, but we will follow the board's guidance and move forward.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Is there anything else to add from staff at all, or before I close this? Supervisor Sabatier?
Sorry, I was just flipping my pen.
All right, so we do have to consider a motion
To continue the
to
public hearing.
continue.
To the 13th of September at 9:30 a.m.
Okay.
I move to continue the public hearing to September 13th at 9:30 a.m.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. We'll see you on the 13th.
Thank you.
And is it Aura Thomas? We will see you on the 13th. Thank you. Okay, it's 10:20. We're going to go ahead and take a short break, and we'll come back at 10:25. 7 or, okay. So we'll start off with 7.2, consideration of behavioral health treatment facility for youth and grant opportunity update, and a letter of support, and authorize the chair to sign. With that, I think this was brought back by, well, this was brought by Supervisor Sabatier, but brought back from CAO Parker. So CAO Parker, if you'd like to go ahead and.
Thank you, Chair. On August 23rd, your board received a presentation regarding a grant opportunity with the California's Department of Healthcare Services Behavioral Health Continuum Infrastructure Program, Round 4. It was presented to you by David Santos of Hope Health. At that time, your board asked that staff perform their due diligence in determining the risk, staff capacity, and other relevant factors to determine if the county should agree to become the lead fiscal agent on this grant. After careful review and limited information provided regarding the transferability of the grant application, the lack of a draft standard agreement to review, and the lack of staff capacity to assume the grant management tasks, the task resulted in a finding that the county should not consider assuming these responsibilities of the lead fiscal agent for this application. We do recognize the need for our rural youth to receive behavioral health services and support Hope Health's commitment to this goal. As per this, we have, actually it was Supervisor Bruno, I'm not even going to try to pronounce your last name. Every time I think about it, I misspell it or misspeak it. A draft letter of support for your board's consideration.
All right. Supervisor Sabatier?
I appreciate the time spent by staff on Tuesday and Wednesday. I believe it was Wednesday afternoon that we made this decision, so it wasn't a huge amount of time, but I appreciated the time spent on this. We did get word from the state that yes, we can move from one entity to another, but there was no documentation or any kind of grant agreement document that we can look at to say in section such and such, it states that all liabilities and everything else is clear. It was only an email message from the third party that was dealing with the grant, and I completely concur that that is not enough for us to be able to say yes, and that it can create potential issues. And some of the issues that came up were every time that we request a grant and do not fulfill the requirements of the grants, there's the potential that that could impact future requests for grant funds, and we definitely do not want to do that. We kind of live on grants here and require that function to move forward smoothly in the future. David Santos did work and with his team for Hope Health to be able to obtain another third party to provide that support. So this project is not over, but this letter of support that we have in front of us so that they can package that together on their grant application will help them to acquire that grant and work with that third party and be able to move forward. And hopefully in the next couple of years, we can see that kind of development happening in our community.
Definitely. Any other comments from the board? Supervisor Simon?
Obviously, as we said before, very important, I want to thank staff too and Supervisor Sabatier to working on this, making sure that we have the letter out, and yeah, it is a viable need in Lake County. So I hope, we're kept in the loop as they move forward. If there's any more support that's needed throughout the process, that they come and ask, because we want to be able to do that. So, yeah, I would love to see something like this, a residential treatment program for our youth to be brought here to Lake County, because it's much needed. We got the report, as we did, about the overdoses and other things. Comments were made starting young is the way to really get this education going and help those folks so they're not struggling their entire life. So glad we're able to do the letter today, but I just, like I said, want to say hopefully we stay in close contact with Mr. Santos and his organization as they try and bring those funds into Lake County. And hopefully we'll be successful with that.
Well, depending on the property they choose, they may be in contact with you.
Yeah, well, or you, depending, so, all right.
All right, open it up to the public for a comment, and we'll look on Zoom. All right, Todd.
I think, yeah, it's still on. As I mentioned, when this discussion was heard, was it just a week ago or maybe 2 weeks ago? We too, Lake County Behavioral Health Services, has submitted a letter of support for this project. We know it's a much needed. This is so needed in our community. It will benefit us, benefit the community. So just want to verbally lend my word of support for this project. However they do it, I hope they can pull it off, and we'll be there to support it. So thank you for this additional letter of support.
All right, thank you, Todd. All right, I don't see anyone coming up to the microphone or hands up in Zoom. I'll bring it back to the board. I have a e-comment I'll read briefly, if that's okay. So it's from Terry Gonzalez. I am a Lake County mental health therapist who works primarily with some of our most challenged youth. We have a crisis in this county due to lack of services available to this age group. Typically, when a young person has a crisis, they have to go to the ER, where they wait days or weeks for a bed in and out of the county facility. This bed may not become available, at which time they will be released back to the environment that they were struggling in without proper support. Usually, the home environment is in need of support as well and also needs these services. Our most severe cases are falling through the cracks, and we are losing our children. Do you know that many times the only help they receive is from the school system after they have exhausted all of their resources? This results in tremendous financial burden on the schools to place a child in and out of county, state, residential programs. We can do better than this. I urge you to support this project in all ways, not just a letter. And that's from Terry Gonzalez. And so with that, I think we're at a point where we can take action.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the letter of support for Hope Health's grant application and authorize the chair to sign.
Second.
So I have a motion to end a second. All in favor? Aye. All right, motion carries. Thank you. Supervisor Sabatier?
And if we can make sure to get that to them ASAP, since tomorrow is the deadline,
Yes.
please.
Yes, sir.
All right. Let's do 7.3, consideration of a resolution designating the chair of the Lake County Board of Supervisors and County Administrative Officer, or designee to execute documents on behalf of the County of Lake to request and obtain funding and technical assistance for facilitating the broadband fiber network design project with the Golden State Connect Authority for amount not to exceed $500,000 and a letter of support for the local agency technical assistance grant, and authorize the chair to sign. And I'll give this to CAO Parker.
Great. Thank you, Chair. Last week Wednesday, Chair Crandall and I met with Barbara Hayes, who's the Chief Economic Development Officer for RCRC. And she shared with us an opportunity with a very short turnaround to actually submit a grant for $500,000 for the fiber network design, which is needed before you do any additional broadband implementation or infrastructure. So the program itself is called Local Agency Assistance Fund, and we are an eligible county, and it does pay for 100% of pre-deployment project costs, i.e. design. We turned this around very quickly, and it's due tomorrow. We are ready to, with the board approval, to submit this to RCRC today. And hopefully this will be just one of those very important steps to take in order to even begin doing an overall broadband strategy infrastructure implementation. So this came it was just opportunity. It's going to be very competitive, so you want to get in as soon as possible. And there was a lot more detail in the staff memo, but given our time constraints today, I thought I'd keep it short and sweet.
Supervisor Sabatier?
Thank you. I appreciate you moving so fast on this. This is necessary. Unfortunate when things come out at the last second like that, but really happy that we're able to bring this to the board for approval in time. It says $500,000, but then within the agreement or resolution, it says per fiscal year. Is there anticipation of getting more than just $500,000, or is that limited to $500,000?
It's limited at this point in time to $500,000. And again, this is a very fast-moving, but still has moving parts.
Right.
But right now, we think it may take, the design itself may take over a year. but that's the language that they prefer.
Yeah,
But-
I think patience is key with all of this. I know that the federal government approved the RDOF, whatever that stands for, I forget. But it was monies set aside for specific companies within local areas. We had 3 companies here that were provided federal funds, and they still haven't been able to get all the guidelines and get all the funding in order to move forward, and that was almost 2 years ago. So I hope we can be patient, but also keep pushing at the same time, because we need this. So, thank you.
Definitely will be asking more questions about this at my next RCRC meetings or Golden State Connect meetings. Almost let the ball go by on this one. Supervisor Garamendi had kind of like said, hey, this is like on the table money that'll never be as easily accessible again, so you got to get in on this. And so I had the misconception that we had already applied for this until I seen the map that they showed at the meeting. I was like, wait, we didn't apply for this? So, yeah, so I came and talked immediately with Susan. She set a meeting with Barbara, and luckily we got this going. So glad we got to get this in. So anything?
Right.
Yeah.
And I just have one more comment, and then I'll be quiet.
Yeah, no.
We did, our RFP for the broadband implementation consultant will close in September, so I'm hoping updating our master plan and then having this going on at the same time, where we'll adjust each of these so that they don't conflict with each other. But I'm very excited because RCRC also received the Broadband Master Plan EDA grant last week. So it's coming together. It's taken a while for it to get there, but again, patience is a virtue with regard to federal funding.
Supervisor Spike?
And that was Supervisor Jack Garamendi
Yes.
of Calaveras.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
I just want to make sure for those that may be
John
confused
Garamendi,
with
Jack Garamendi from
our federal
Calaveras. Yeah,
representative.
yes, he's the chair for the Golden State Connect Board. So yeah, he's like, hey, what are you doing? So yeah. Anyhow, if there's anyone from the public that would like to comment on this item, I don't see anyone in the chambers coming up, and no one on Zoom. So I'll bring it back to the board for action.
I offer the resolution.
Resolution has been offered.
Supervisor Simon?
Yes.
Supervisor Sabatier?
Aye.
Supervisor Pyska?
Yes.
And Supervisor Crandall?
Yes.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chair, I move to approve the letter of support for the local agency technical assistance grant and authorize the chair to sign.
Second?
So I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, so we'll move on to 7.4, consideration of an update regarding the Technology Governance Committee. And B, consideration of a board agenda memo template providing links to resources and requesting information on purchasing policy compliance. With that, I'll turn it over to CAO Parker, and she'll designate who, I think it's Matthew.
Good morning, Board. Matthew Rothstein and Shane French will be presenting this item.
And Shane French, I believe, is on his way down.
Okay.
I can go ahead and start with the initial presentation.
All right, there he is.
Okay. Welcome, Shane.
Perfect introduction.
Good morning, Board. I'm Matthew Rothstein, Deputy County Administrative Officer, and it is my privilege to make this presentation. As you are aware, purchasing decisions made by one county department can have effects on others. With technology purchases, for example, systems selected to meet a business need in a particular area of county service may rely on the ability to import and export data to and from systems maintained by a different department. In fall of 2017, a staff-level working group was formed, the Technology Governance Committee, initially to support transition of the county's legacy financial system to a more sustainably supportable solution. And that project exemplified the need to plan ahead for implementation of a complex system transition and ensure appropriate staff support was in place across multiple county departments. Indeed, that project could not have been successful without the coordinated efforts of the offices of the Auditor Controller, Treasurer Tax Collector, Information Technology, and others. and particularly the close collaborative leadership of Kathy Saderlin, Danielle Dizon, and Shane French. Lessons from that experience have been applied to subsequent projects, and departments submitting technology projects for budget approval are asked to engage in a collaborative advanced planning process, beginning with completion of an electronic form that gathers input from Technology Governance Committee members, our IT director, the auditor controller, and administration. This process is available for departments that have identified a specific product that they would like to purchase, and it's also available for those that have a business need and they've not yet found a particular solution that meets that need. Engaging in the planning process early can truly be most helpful. The scope of work for an RFP for a technology purchase will have many technical components, for example, and IT staff can help manage expectations and improve the likelihood that a software purchase will meet the relevant business need. Administrative office staff can also advise on procurement options and may be aware of other departments with similar needs. Particularly when a program must interface with the county financial system, engaging the auditor controller's office early is also essential. The Technology Governance Committee is prepared and excited to help departments to look ahead and anticipate needs before they're so urgent that solutions cannot be effectively planned. During fiscal year 2022-23, we also anticipate bringing forth updates to technology-focused and technology-adjacent policies. And potential areas of focus for that work include information security, acceptable use of county assets and the internet, and the growing prevalence of two-factor authentication, which can require use of multiple internet-connected devices for identity confirmation. We are also additionally aware that your board is routinely called on to approve agreements for technology purchases, and sincerely hope that the endorsement of the Technology Governance Committee can be a helpful support for your decision-making. Our County Administrative Officer, Susan Parker, and Administrative Office staff also want to support departments, your board, and the public in ensuring that sufficient information is accessible to document purchasing decisions. Toward that end, we've developed a draft updated board memo form with a new purchasing considerations section. It provides links to relevant county policies and a reminder to staff submitting memos to provide appropriate information in the executive summary section and/or supportive documentation. The form also includes a checkbox where departmental staff affirm technology purchases have been vetted and supported by the Technology Governance Committee. Implementing this form would be an incremental step from the existing process and a helpful prompt to provide appropriate purchasing-related information. I thank you for your time and your consideration of this presentation, and Shane is also here to answer any technology-focused questions that you may have.
Any questions from the board? Supervisor Sabatier.
I like it, but we already have checkboxes on our current memos, and too often they just remain blank, as it can easily be passed over and still put on the agenda. I guess the balance is between the burden and the need. I think it needs to be there for transparency purposes. It helps people to navigate through what exactly is this, what's the process, what is this impacting, why are we doing this, and the checkboxes help to kind of get an idea of that. But if we're not filling it out and we're just adding more checkboxes with previous checkboxes already being ignored, or haphazardly responded to, I don't know if the value is going to be there versus we hope that it's there. So that's my only concern, is are we adding more to what already would seem to be a burden for those putting in stuff on the agenda, because it's blank half the time or more. So I'm not sure if maybe that can be discussed at like department head meeting or something like that to how do we make that? I mean, in my mind, we can use technology where you can't submit your agenda until this has been either not applicable or checked in the correct fashion. But again, are we just adding more burden to a process that department heads are going through, or is that actually really efficient and useful for department heads? And I can't answer that because I'm not a department head. But that's my only thought process. And I just looked through the agenda today, and some of them are not filled out at all, and some of them are filled out, I know, incorrectly. And so it's hard to put value to it when we're adding to something that isn't already being used. So I appreciate the check boxes because I love it, but
I was going to say, aren't those check boxes mostly for your edification anyway? I mean, for you, when you're reviewing the agenda packet, to look at that and go, hey, you know, have these boxes been checked? Have we actually reviewed the criteria for this particular item? I mean, I don't know. I think it's mostly just something that's more helpful to your board when reviewing these items, just at a glance to see, hey, has this been reviewed in this manner or not? I don't know for sure if that's the best use of it, but I also wouldn't want to add a bunch of added bureaucracy to the process for department heads either. I mean, checking a box, it's kind of a least you can do type thing, I guess, but if it's helpful to your board, I think it's worthwhile.
I think it's helpful to the board, and then also to the public so they can see, you know, as well too.
And Mr. Chair, do you mind if I add a couple of details?
Yeah, go ahead.
So one of the intents too with this new form is just providing links to the purchasing policies, for example. And I can, you know, recall in other business environments using software programs that walked you through processes like these, and they included links to relevant policy where appropriate. And I always found that personally to be helpful. So I guess it just, to me, the idea of having links to where these are your resources for purchasing decisions under county policy, and this is the documentation that is expected. I guess to me, I was hoping that that could be a helpful you know, reminder in a sense as department heads and other staff are going through that process. And certainly I can appreciate, you know, there may be other approaches. Gathering further feedback from department heads before we implement a form could be, you know, fully appropriate. And I'm definitely grateful for your board's input today as well. I just wanted to, you know, raise that intent that the hope is that it's kind of a helpful prompt, you know, in a way as well.
All right. Is there any other comments from the board before I open it up to the public? Is there anyone that would like to make public comment on this item? I don't see it. I'd seen a hand up in Zoom, but then it went down, so I don't know. All right. With that, I'll go ahead and close public input, and it looks like this item requires just an informational report and then a consensus of the board. Do we have a consensus? Yes. Okay, we have a consensus. Thank you very much.
And should we best understand your consensus to be to seek additional input from department heads on the best process with regard to the form? Or what is your direction?
I'll let Supervisor Simon.
No, mine was to approve the form, affirm by consensus the board agenda, the template today. That was my
That's what I thought too.
My consensus.
And I think that obviously, since this impacts department heads, that this will be discussed at the next department head meeting to make sure that everybody's aware of the new form and what it's for and what we're seeking from department heads. And I don't think we need a consensus for that. I think it's obviously going to have a change, and that change needs to be conveyed.
Thank you, Shane. You'll have an agenda item later this month on the department head meeting.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
All right. So that's our non-timed items. I'm going to move now to the consent agenda items that were pulled. I'm going to move backwards. Item 5.10, approve long-distance travel for parks and projects. Superintendent Brian Powers to Phoenix, Arizona to attend the National Recreation and Parks Association Annual Conference from September 20th through 22nd of 2022. And so, Lars, I'll let you go ahead. And I'm not sure why this was, I just know it was on my note. Supervisor Spatier?
Since I pulled it, just want to give my brief reason. I would like to approve this today, but I wanted to bring up something. We are working on the travel policy. We just saw we have now 3 in the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, something like that. where now we're sending people out of state. This does not occur a whole lot in the 4 years that I've been on this board, and now it's happened 3 times in a very short time period. And one is to Alaska, one is Wisconsin, one is Arizona. It's out of state. I looked this conference up. There is a virtual component to a conference. I understand that there is good networking capabilities when you're at a conference versus a virtual, but I would like to see if the updated travel policy can ask for, is there a virtual component to this? Is it a one-to-one comparison? Just because this is a lot more than just sending somebody to Sacramento. And the state of California typically has a lot of conferences that we might be able to go to. But I think that we need to look at the fact that things have changed forever, where there may be a continued virtual component to many of these conferences, and maybe there's a cheaper way on the tax dollars to be spent for future conferences. But that is not within our travel policy at this moment in time, so I just wanted to bring it up. But it didn't approve the travel request that is in front of us today.
Okay. Well, just a few things on that point. In my 6 years of public services, this is the second time, I believe, that I've asked someone to go out of state. So I guess I'm riding on the coattails of some others just within the last few weeks. But to answer your question about this conference, first off, it is not normal that I would request to send the parks superintendent to this. It's the first time in 5 or 6 years that the conference is in the western United States. So that was a driver, just in an adjacent state. But specific to your virtual question, yes, there is a virtual component, but it is very limiting. It is just the virtual speed sessions, not the entirety of the conference. Education, some off-site, basically site visits there. There's a trade expo, so that virtual component is nowhere close to a one-for-one in this case. But as it relates to the larger travel policy, I'll certainly defer to to that discussion that would be above and beyond this one item.
Any other comments from the board? All right. Any comments from the public? I'm looking online. And, okay, so I'll bring it back to the board for action.
And if possible, looking for consensus from the board to look at the changes that COVID has created for the potential for virtual conferences versus in-person conferences, that be looked at for our upcoming travel policy, which CAO Parker tells me within the next couple of months or 3 months may come back to us. Not sure what that means or what that looks like, but I think it's an important change to be in the 21st century post-COVID world for what travel policy looks like.
Yeah, I would agree with adding that for a discussion point, but obviously I would defer to the directors, when that's available to them and things like that. So, but adding it to the policy, absolutely, it should definitely be something for the future.
Yeah, I'm fine with talking about it in the future with what you're discussing. I also know that at times there are things like that might be missed. If I didn't go because of Patty Pop from PG&E last week, I might have missed the Golden State Connect situation just by being on Zoom. Sometimes that is the price you pay when you do the Zoom, but I understand there can be more ways and limits to put in that policy when we discuss it. We can talk about it there.
And with that, Mr. Chair, I move to approve long-distance travel for Parks and Projects Superintendent Brian Powers to Phoenix, Arizona to attend the National Recreation and Parks Association Annual Conference from September 20th to the 22nd of 2022.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will go to, I think it's what, 5.8, right?
Yeah.
5.8, approve the following agreement between County of Lake and Leonard's Hauling and Tractor for nuisance abatement in an amount not to exceed $50,000 and nuisance abatement with the Roadmap Task Force area in an amount not to exceed $67,000 and authorize the chair to sign. B, between the County of Lake and Cook Construction and Engineering Partners for nuisance abatement in an amount not to exceed $50,000 and nuisance abatement with the Roadmap Task Force area in an amount not to exceed $67,000. and authorize the chair to sign. And C, between the County of Lake and 360 junk removal and hauling for nuisance abatement in an amount not to exceed $50,000, and nuisance abatement with the Roadmap Task Force area in an amount not to exceed $67,000, and authorize the chair to sign. And Supervisor Sabatier, you pulled this?
Yes, mostly for transparency with the public. We had a conversation about our proposed budget. Our proposed budget did not offer for the standard nuisance abatement to cover the $150,000. It is my belief, with speaking with Stephen Carter from the admin office, that those that will be changed on their budget so that we do match this. I just, to me, appropriations and amount being approved on agreements is important to keep within, and I just wanted to make sure that it was made aware to the public that there are changes to the budget to make sure that this is covered. This is, because last time it was quite a large one. It was almost $900,000. Now it's much smaller, still bigger than the budget that we budgeted for, but it's being changed so that it does cover it, and that's the only reason I pulled it.
Any other comments from the board? Any comments from the public? All right.
Hi, Interim Community Development Director Mireya Turner. We just wanted to extend our thanks and appreciation to Stephen Carter and the administrative office. He helped us to clarify the agreements, and additionally, and I don't usually use the words budget and flexibility in the same sentence, but through his assistance, we were able to find, or we were able to provide for additional flexibility so that getting our abatement actions done in the future will be more timely, will avoid delays. And so we really appreciated that. Thank you.
Thank you. And I don't see anyone else coming up to the microphone, and not seeing a hand raised in Zoom, so I'll bring it back to the board for action.
Mr. Chair, move to approve the agreement between the County of Lake and Leonard's Hauling and Tractor for nuisance abatement in an amount not to exceed $50,000 or $50,000, and nuisance abatement within the Roadmap Task Force area in an amount not to exceed $67,000, and authorize the chair to sign.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And Mr. Chair, move to approve an agreement between the County of Lake and Cook Construction and Engineering Partners for nuisance abatement in an amount not to exceed $50,000, and nuisance abatement within the Roadmap Task Force area in an amount not to exceed $67,000, and authorize the chair to sign.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And last one, move to approve the agreement between the County of Lake and 360 junk removal and hauling for nuisance abatement in an amount not to exceed $50,000, and nuisance abatement within the Roadmap Task Force area in an amount not to exceed $67,000, and authorize the chair to sign.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Oh, CAO?
Yes, Director Metcalf respectfully requests that we take 5.6 before 5.7.
Okay, sounds good.
With your permission.
I'm glad you said that before I went to
I know,
it.
I was.
All right, so we'll go on to 5.6. Approve amendment number 2 between the County of Lake and New Life Health Authority doing business as New Life LLC for substance use disorder outpatient drug-free services, intensive outpatient treatment services, and narcotic treatment program services for a new contract maximum of $1,688,184 for fiscal year 2021 and 22, and authorize the board chair to sign. And, okay, I'll just give the floor to
Yeah, that was a lot.
Director
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the board. Todd Metcalf, Lake County Behavioral Services. In hindsight, this probably should not have been put on the consent agenda because this is a pretty big deal. New Life provides much-needed services to our folks, and we're going to run through a brief PowerPoint presentation on the benefit of the services this organization provides. They're saving lives, they're making a difference, and really the reason for this second amendment to the contract is because we sort of underestimated the utilization of the programs and services that New Life provides, and this is money well spent. And as we go through this, you will see that it is not at any cost to the county. And April, I don't mean to steal your thunder because I know you're going to go through this presentation, but just kind of wanted to preface it with this is exciting. I know it looks like a lot of money. We will get that money back. And thank you for letting us present these two items in order, because the following item will make sense after we go through this presentation. So April, if you want to introduce, well, your name's already on the screen. So I'll turn it over to you and I'll jump in as needed.
If you don't mind, Elise, thank you.
Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. Thank you for this opportunity. I prepared this presentation really just as notes to go over some wonderful work that is being done by New Life Clinic. So I appreciate last minute adding the slides. And I'm going to do my best to provide a high-level overview and then answer any questions that you may have. The New Life contract and the services that are provided through their facility is a bit of, it's new to us. It's new to the entire state of California, a tribal 638 clinic offering NTP services remotely close to state plan counties. And so in and of itself, this contractor provider is paving the way for innovative and new services, and we're very grateful that we had the opportunity to partner. I wish we had a lot more resources available to us to help pay the way, but here we are, and I'm grateful for it. So, New Life Narcotic Treatment Program Methadone Services. So I'm going to do a high-level education of what methadone is. So I apologize in advance if I bore you. I've been told that I don't have the wow factor, so I'm just going to...
Who said that?
I don't know. I'm just going to do my thing here. Okay, so methadone is a prescribed medication used to treat chronic opioid use disorders for individuals where other medications were not as effective. So it was reiterated to me by one of the providers with New Life that this is not the first course of action. So it's not necessarily you walk into this clinic and request to, to be treated with medicated assisted treatment. You're not automatically put on methadone. There are other less risk involved medications like Suboxone, buprenorphine, naltrexone, medications that are typically administered. Methadone is a long-acting opioid agonist that reduces opioid craving and withdrawal. An agonist such as methadone blunts or blocks the effects of opioids. So therefore, individuals don't experience the high. So they don't go through withdrawal, but they don't experience the high. So it's really, methadone is seen as a maintenance drug. So how is methadone utilized in the treatment of opiate use disorders? Methadone is one component to a very comprehensive treatment plan that includes education, individual and group services. Taken daily, it is available in liquid, powder, and discus. Patients taking methadone to treat opiate use disorder must receive the medication under supervision of a practitioner. Duration and length. The length of a time that a person receives methadone treatment varies. It is patient-led. According to the National Institute on Drug Abuse, NIDA, the length of methadone treatment should be a minimum of 12 months. Some patients may require long-term maintenance. There are no set predetermined length of treatment episodes. So traditionally what we offer inside of our clinic is outpatient services, and it can range anywhere from 3 months to 6 months. But usually never more than 12 months. That's a higher level of care. Methadone is just the opposite. It starts with a 12-month episode, right? And then can go out through an individual's life, as opioid use is a chronic or can be a chronic disorder. So, next slide. Why do patients need to be seen often? So methadone doses are often adjusted and readjusted. So they're very closely monitored because other medications may interact with methadone and cause heart conditions. Even after methadone and may cause heart conditions. Even after the effects of methadone wear off, the medication is still active. The ingredients remain in the body for much longer. So even though an individual stops the use of methadone, there's a chance that there is a half-life or additional medication stored in the body that may cause interactions with other medications. Overdose is possible. That's primarily the number one reason why they must work so closely with the provider, is because you can overdose. Another reason is that they're trying to reduce the medication being put out on the streets. They don't want the risk of overdose. They don't want additional harmful risks kind of transcended into the homes or among families. They don't want medications being taken home where there could be overdose. They don't want individuals sharing medications with other friends, or family members. And so it's really an all-inclusive service where they work very closely with their provider. So why methadone? Methadone is safe and effective when taken as prescribed. Methadone helps individuals to achieve and sustain recovery and to reclaim active and meaningful lives. And these are some pretty big statements that I'm saying, so I just want the board to know, and anybody who's listening, there are resources available, and I did pull this information from cited publications, so there is evidence to support this. Methadone treatment has been proven to reduce crime and disease transmission and improve quality of life. The use of methadone reduces the risk of overdose by 50%. So if we think about what we just did with our proclamation and just the stories that we just heard, right? This medication has the potential and has evidence to support the reduction of overdoses by 50%. That's huge. Okay, so methadone, a drug Medi-Cal entitlement and requirement. So this is something that it took our department a minute to kind of wrap our heads around. How can individuals just go and see a provider and the county be responsible for this service, right? So the department, I just kind of mapped it out from my own understanding, and so I hope you guys can follow my thought process in this, but the Department of Healthcare Services requires that counties in a state plan drug Medi-Cal either provide or arrange for the provision of narcotic treatment programs. Among other services like outpatient, intensive outpatient, perinatal, residential, and residential services under the EPSDT services, which is early periodic screening, diagnostic and treatment benefit. So those are the mandated services. Those are the things that we as a county state plan are required to provide or contract for the provision of. I have been a part of audits where we have not had these services and had to really work hard to contract with providers and locating individuals who have these services, not only who provide these services, but provide quality services. So it's in my 10 years with the department, it has been a challenge as a small rural county finding providers to do these services. So NTP, Narcotic Treatment Program, an outpatient clinic licensed to provide narcotic replacement therapy using methadone, directed at stabilization and rehabilitation of opioid addicted persons. Counties unable to provide or subcontract for the mandatory provision of services are seen as out of compliance and must demonstrate efforts to contract the delivery of services. So I will say this. In the past, when we have been unable to contract with a provider such as a methadone provider, that has went on a corrective action plan with Department of Healthcare Services. And that has kind of when I became a supervisor, we had a 3-year outstanding corrective action plan because we failed to contract with the provider. So it historically has been very difficult to find providers. Despite my best effort, up until New Life, we haven't been able to secure a contract. Beneficiaries may seek services outside of the county at the expense of the county of residence. I wish I could say that I understood this a little bit more, but I'm learning along with my partners. I'll go into that in a few minutes. Okay. So prior to New Life, I wanted to just kind of paint a landscape or draw a picture of what it was like and the efforts that have been put forth. I feel as though I could have done more to educate our community and the board on the efforts that have been made, and so I'm here to correct that now, and moving forward, we will definitely make a difference. So prior to New Life, we've had limited access to this medication. The closest providers were Aegis in Chico, Grass Valley, Redding, Marysville, Roseville, Sacramento, and Santa Rosa. Next slide, please. So, next slide. Thank you. Methadone discussion timeline and events. 2015 to 2017, there were minimal efforts of even trying to bring this medication to our county. There was a lot of stigma associated with the use of medication to treat substance use disorders, much less a very difficult time locating providers and resources. 2017 to 2020, at least 4 significant in-depth conversations. And 4 doesn't seem like a lot, but we're talking about an hour and a half of constant brainstorming with individuals who have been providing services from Aegis and surrounding counties for multiple years. So these conversations were in-depth, like where are facilities located, where are there properties where we could potentially open up our clinics, can we share clinics? There was a lot of brainstorming that went into these conversations, and they failed. Even with organizations such as Aegis, who has a lot of resources and funding, we were unable to bring it to this county. So 2020 to current. So 2020, New Life approached us, and it was shared with me yesterday from their CEO that they actually strategized and hired top-notch executives from Department of Healthcare Services on how they were going to address counties who were ambivalent or resistant to bringing this medication to their counties. And when New Life approached us in 2020, they approached us just that, with this perspective that they were going to be met with resistance. As someone who, like I shared earlier today with my life experience, I am very much engaged with our community who are struggling with addiction. And so I did not meet this with resistance. I welcomed it. And I'm very grateful that we did that. It took a second for me to be able to share that with our colleagues because of the financial cost to doing services, the stigma associated with medication, the county's responsibility with monitoring. I don't even know how we're going to monitor. Of course, there's regulations, but that is something that is new to us, and we're going to have to get really good at it really fast. Probably shouldn't have said that, but I'm really transparent. Okay. So New Life initiated an agreement or contract with Lake County Behavioral Health to assist in structuring access and payment for Native participants. So the initial conversation was not to treat non-natives. They were really just wanting to make sure that they were able to provide culturally appropriate services to the Pinoleville tribe, right? And any Native participants who met medical necessity. Lake County Behavioral Health Services understood the need and the opportunity. The research revealed that no other state planned counties to model the contractual and fiscal processes. I remember sitting at a couple conferences where over the years with a couple of directors like, man, can you imagine what would happen if we were required to contract with a tribal 638 clinic? It would bankrupt us. We'd go upside down. There's no way that we could handle this. And then one opened up in our backyard and we embraced it. And I will say that because we chose to embrace it, we are eligible to receive full reimbursement, not only from the federal and state reimbursement modalities, but also with great partners like Pinoleville, who is willing to make sure that our county doesn't suffer any financial repercussions from this innovative and life-saving treatment. So I'll go on to talk a little bit more about that. In 2021, the number of beneficiaries continued to grow as word spread. I was terrified of sharing this information. I didn't know at $519 a pop, that's a lot of money. And my concern was that we were not going to be able to handle the infrastructure, that New Life wasn't going to be able to handle the infrastructure. And so we were still in-house trying to figure out how to approach this from a contractual and fiscal model. But word of mouth got out, and there are a lot of individuals who receive services there. I'll talk a little bit more about that. 2022 we learned that DHCS did not have a mechanism to provide state plan counties the OMB rate because no other state plan county had agreed to contract the OMB rate. And for me, that's sad. That means that no other counties actually took the responsibility and stepped up to ensure that they were meeting their obligations and serving their community. And I'm very honored to be a part of that. So, New Life at Tribal 638 Clinic. So a Tribal 638 clinic offers traditional healers and natural helpers, culturally specific evidence-based practices, holistic care. One of the unique aspects to New Life is that they can provide patients with dental services, physical therapy, optometry, and mental health. They really do a one-stop shop, so it is all-inclusive.
Which is really exciting because it does speak to some of the things I spoke about a while back about CalAIM, the integration of physical and mental health services. So this fits right in with the direction we're all going.
No, thank you. So access to medicated assisted treatment, including methadone. Every visit where methadone is dispensed, the patient sees their medical provider. Every visit. They're not seen, not to lessen the services of a nurse, but they see their provider. They have a case consultation. They get to talk about struggles with relapse and any other barriers that they may be facing. A significant predictor of success is the relationship between the client and provider, and clients are much more engaged when they see their provider daily. They also provide transportation to and from services. So what services are provided for New Life patients? Individual group therapy. And I also just kind of wanted to give a shout out to New Life because they opened and operated during the onset of COVID. I mean, they did this during some of the hardest times. Individual group therapy generally helps patients identify treatment goals and potential solutions to problems that cause emotional stress, seeks to restore communication and coping skills, strengthens self-esteem, promotes behavior change, and optimal mental health. Treatment provided at New Life also incorporates medical and psychiatry services and transportation, among other supportive services. Medical interventions such as the use of prescribed medications like methadone help to stabilize the reward circuitry in the brain. Counseling helps people develop healthy coping skills and learn new behaviors. So together, they're really treating the mind-body. Patient statistics. So to date, there have been 34 total Lake County Medi-Cal methadone admits. Of the 34 patients, 26 are still in treatment. 26 are still in treatment. 8 have discharged. So Lake County patients have a 76% retention rate, which is 9% above the total 67% retention rate for the entire clinic. So our clients are showing a greater need and greater commitment. They're traveling from Lake County, and yet they're staying in services and engaging longer than those that live in Mendocino. Of the 8 who discharged, their average days in treatment was 140 days. So we hear discharge, and there's a negative, a negative feeling or perception attached to the word discharge. But even with those 8, they stayed in treatment 140 days. 11 new patients were admitted during April and May. 11 new patients. That's a lot of services and a lot of money, but it was a big increase during that period that accounted for some of the future agenda items. I'm embarrassed about this graph. It was really for me, but you guys get to see it. I like the orange. I like the orange. The orange represents 17 individuals that remained in services between 181 and 360 days. I'm traditionally familiar with negative outcomes, people that don't come back after their first appointment, people that aren't responsive to interventions provided in outpatient services. These individuals are engaged and attending, and that to me is wonderful. And if that wasn't enough, before I go into the patient satisfaction survey, I am still very much attached to direct services. I like to talk with our clients. I like to speak with our community providers. I like to hear from them, their perception of services. And I can tell you that there are a few clients who are currently attending there. One lost a family member to overdose. But despite residential services, intensive outpatient services, we were not able to get this young man engaged. He fell through the cracks. He was a high utilizer of all of our emergency response systems. We could not wrap enough services around, and it turns out we didn't need to. What he needed was methadone and the support that New Life is providing him. So this is from their patient satisfaction surveys. Over 50% of the clients participated in this survey, so a total of 66 participants. 79% of the respondents rated New Life at a 9 or a 10. I long to have those kinds of ratings. 95% of the respondents indicated that they felt their drug use had gotten better since, and I don't necessarily care for the way that that was framed, but that's how they reported. Their drug use had gotten better since they began treatment at New Life. A comment was, they gave me a reason to hope again. The best treatment I've received in recovery. Reported change in drug use. This one had an impact on our team. I no longer feel controlled by drugs, and I don't think that they will be what kills me.
Are we coming to a close end? Okay.
Speed it up?
Yes.
Okay, I'm working on it. We'll skip. Next steps. Developing coordinated entry of care plans. So I do want to say that it is important that we track outcomes and data, and we do have plans to address satisfaction surveys, counselor provider reports, external quality reviews, on-site monitoring. We are scheduled to do a walkthrough of the facility on 9/9. We are going to do some medication, polysubstance data, CalOMS data, contractor provider utilization, and provider cost reports.
All right.
I guess I'll just end on this. And as we work through figuring out how to get payment from Pinoleville and state reimbursement and federal reimbursement, in the end, there will be no cost to our department, no cost to our county, no cost from us to be able to provide these services. No other county in California can say that. Not one. That's it.
All right. Thank you. Supervisor Sabatier.
I apologize for correcting your last statement. If we're still working on it, we don't know what the end result actually will be. The hope and desire is that everyone can agree and say, yes, this is what we were looking at originally, but right now we just don't have the documentation to say that. And so hopefully we can get there. I love what the program is doing. I hope that it continues to do the same, but I'm very concerned about how quickly this escalated from originally on the first contract, which we did in January, was $400,000. In July, we did an amendment for another $450,000, and now we're looking at another $800 and such amount thousand dollars for more than 1.6 million, almost 1.7 million. If we don't get those approvals from the state, the federal, or the tribe, that's on us to figure out how to pay that. And so that's where I'm concerned, is how do we limit it to ensure that we can afford what is happening there? Because right now we have to figure out, and it's on the next item, but I can't help but blend the two items together. I mean, I want to build houses for every homeless person as well, so they don't have to be homeless. But at the same time, I know we can't afford to do that. And as long as we can make progress, it's difficult for me to I have concerns with the data and information you shared with us is fabulous. Wow. Make sure you needed to hear that word. But the agreement in front of us, in my opinion, is faulty because it states that the tribe will compensate, but yet there's no agreement with the tribe. And so I can't agree with the agreement unless I see an agreement signed by the tribe themselves, because New Life is not the tribe. And it scares me to put someone else on notice that they are going to pay when we haven't really necessarily contracted anything with them specifically. That's where my major concern is. How do we ensure to control this so that it does help our community, as you stated, but that it's also not draining our resources where we're still not sure if we're going to get the compensation that we are anticipating we should get, but right now we're not getting that. So I'm part of the conversation is for the next item, but part of the conversation is here. So for me, as is, I can't agree to this agreement for the fact that it says tribal contribution, but there's no tribal signature, and I don't feel comfortable approving this without a signature area for tribal to actually sign.
Ms. Grant,
In my version, there is one.
Additionally, I'd like to point the board's attention and county council's attention to a charter which was not submitted with this item. However, the charter stipulates that New Life LLC is owned by Pinoleville Pomo Nation, and also lists Robert Kirshner, the signatory, as the charter states that he can essentially sign for the tribal chairperson. And so unfortunately that was not available to me at the time the item was submitted, but that clearly establishes the ownership of the tribe, or of New Life by the tribe, and therefore puts the tribe on the hook for the provisions added in Exhibit B. Additionally, regardless of our relationship with the tribe or the additional provisions of Exhibit B, we would still be on the hook for these services. So I don't want to say it's a moot point. Essentially, we would have to pay regardless. It's an entitlement under Drug Medi-Cal. There's no way we could not honor our obligation as a county to our Lake County beneficiaries to pay for these. And furthermore, there are behavioral health information notices that establish firmly the link and the obligation of the Department of Healthcare Services to render full reimbursement for the OMB rate. So that is established by the Department of Healthcare Services, and because we trailblazed as the first county within California in a non-ODS plan to contract for these services, we had to make the state play catch-up and honor their own regulations.
And I just would like to also add, thank you, Elise, but I would also like to add that there is reimbursement still coming from the state to the tune of 90-10 for some Medi-Cal beneficiaries, and then 50% on the others. So the cost to the county, if we were unable to receive reimbursement from the tribe, we would still be able to get a good portion of reimbursement from the state and federal. So it would not be 1.6 million. It would be dependent upon each Medi-Cal's beneficiary, or each beneficiary's Medi-Cal, but we would get reimbursement.
Ms. Grant.
Your board may want to inquire in the charter documents which were sent out yesterday afternoon, where it is in the charter that expressly authorizes the general manager of the LLC to sign on behalf of the tribe.
We actually do have counsel for New Life. I'm not sure if that'd be appropriate to mention at this point, but they are sitting on the board on the call here.
I just want to know where it appears in the charter, if that's possible, if there's language, and you said it was in there, so.
Is it not in there? I don't have my laptop in front of me.
Did you say we received that yesterday?
I received a copy yesterday afternoon. I'm not challenging it, I'm saying I just can't find it, so I was
No, I'm wondering,
asking.
because I'm looking for it, I don't remember receiving an email regarding that.
I don't think we did. I sent it to you, Todd.
Yeah. Oh, I sent that, Supervisor Spatier, I sent it to you this morning before the meeting. I apologize for the delay. I only sent it to you, though.
I know you responded. Oh, okay, gotcha.
Perhaps New Life can also provide a certificate from the tribe if need be, but counsel, thank you for that. A lot has happened in the past couple of days, and so I would need to further reference. I could have sworn that I saw in there was a provision that allowed them to sign on behalf, and now I'm not finding it.
There is a provision that allows them to take any action as expressly authorized or directed by the tribal council.
I see.
That's not the same thing as a delegation. It's just an unusual delegation to make. And certainly delegations are generally ministerial, not discretionary. So that's why I was asking. Again, I'm not saying it's not there. It may just be language that I'm not recognizing. I just simply didn't see it. It does talk about taking action to further the purposes of the LLC. A limited liability corporation, of course, has separate and independent legal status regardless of who owns it. So, and there is a separate signature line for the tribe. So if it's in the middle there, after the County of Lake and before the approval as to form and attestation clauses. So it is there, and your board can certainly allow for whoever presents as having the authority to do so to sign on behalf of the tribe. It doesn't have to be an issue that presents an obstacle here. It's just a point that I didn't see it in the charter itself.
Yes, I missed that. I see that at the bottom now. Just wondering, do we need to change the title, or the second amendment to the agreement is made? Because there's nothing in relation to tribal signature or bringing in the tribe as part of the contract. I know that New Life is a part of the tribe, but kind of curious if it needs to be highlighted in the title of the amendment itself to make sure that we are doing a binding agreement between not just New Life and us, but New Life and the tribe.
Well, you can certainly. I think because of the ownership issues, it's probably not necessary, but you certainly can. And it would likely be prudent to do so. The reason why the tribe was put in was because of the reference to the tribal contribution. And while the Exhibit B sets forth the procedure for submittals of monies, it doesn't really explain how that process works. And that may be because, as Director Metcalf informed me on Friday, this is a new program, and so county's at the forefront, but staff may want to, or your board may want staff to describe a bit as to exactly how this program works in terms of reimbursement. My only concern in terms of having a separate line too for the tribe was to have the director of the LLC who's going to be receiving money be the same person who signs off to give money back is unusual. So there'd have to be a statement of some kind in the document that would authorize that. Or the program itself may explain how that's possible. There's a lot of ways to do it. It's just they don't clearly appear in this language in the amendment.
So they need to be admitted to the meeting if we were to want to ask them any direct questions. I'm not sure if.
Is he, what's the name? Let's see, we have, okay, he might be in the other one. All right.
Patrick or Bob Kushner.
Okay.
I'm sorry, but excuse me, what's the name we're looking for?
Kushner?
Patrick is the first name. It could, I'm not
Patrick,
sure. Yep.
P-A-D-R-A, I see him.
Yes.
Okay.
As counsel for New Life and.
Okay. And then,
Bob Kushner.
okay,
I don't see a Kushner.
yeah. Well, I see Robert or Patrick's hand up, so if you can unmute, if there's anything you'd like to add to this. There you go.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. Please.
Hi there. I've been listening in. Hopefully this connection works. So I happen to be general counsel for the Pinoleville-Pomo Nation, and I'm also general counsel for One Together Solutions, which is the manager. of the clinic for New Life. So I can kind of answer a broad variety of questions for you, but putting it simply, New Life LLC is a creature of the tribe. It's an arm of the tribe, and it's created under tribal law. It doesn't have a separate legal existence from the tribe itself. So it is an alter ego of the tribe itself. New Life Clinic, because it doesn't have the experience to develop and operate an opioid treatment clinic, which is a very, very highly specialized activity, hired One Together Solutions to come in and do that, since that's what they do. So through that management arrangement, One Together Solutions, and that's Bob Kirshner and the entire team, is authorized as an agent of New Life Clinic to do each and everything that's required to operate the clinic, including signing agreements. That's, we have many, many agreements at the clinic, and that's routinely done by either Bob or somebody else from One Together Solutions as the manager. If there's a desire to have the tribe involved because of, and again, I hope it's been made clear, I joined a little bit late, that, the tribe is offering to pay the county's portion of the non-federal share. That's, not something that we've seen elsewhere. Penoliville's been very gracious in making that offer. And that's, substantial, because the tribe did not want to affect the county's finances, but wanted to keep this clinic open and offering these services to, as you know, much needed patients. So, anyhow, I don't think, technically speaking, there's a need for the tribe to join in this agreement or for the chairperson to sign, but if that's a desire, if that provides comfort to the county, I'm sure I could talk to the chairperson about that. She'd be amenable. But probably not necessary. But if that provides comfort because of the reimbursement issue, or the fact that the tribe is stepping in to pay the county's portion of the non-federal share, then, like I said, I'm sure we can arrange that.
All right. Well, Patrick, can you give me your full name? We only see Patrick, so.
Sure, it's Patrick McCoy.
Okay.
McCoy.
All right. And I don't know if you heard some of the dialogue that was going on. Is that what you were tuning your comment to, basically?
Yeah, the concern over what New Life is as an entity, and whether Bob is authorized to sign the contract. I don't believe, I've looked closely at the latest iteration of the contract for police. I don't believe it requires any changes. It's the contract would be between, or the amendment between, the county and New Life. Again, New Life is the tribe, just operating through this arm of the tribe for purposes of this clinic. Bob is the manager of the clinic through One Together Solutions, and is authorized to do any and all things necessary to operate the clinic, including executing agreements. If you'd like some sort of certificate, just verifying that fact, again, happy to provide whatever comfort might be necessary, but I don't believe any changes should be required to the actual contract amendment.
All right. Ms. Grant?
Given those remarks, and what I would suggest is that New Life LLC, which is created under tribal law, is authorized to agree to the tribal contribution as set forth in this provision, and just make it the last sentence in sub B on page 2 of 4, and that way you'll have a connection.
Supervisor Sabatier?
Yeah, my concern for Part B is the vagueness, I guess, of the paragraph, where it says, to the extent it has the authority to do so, the tribal agrees to voluntarily provide. Is that, I just, as we're still figuring out what the actual reimbursement rates will be, you're working out to get a better rate from the state and the feds. I think that leaves us unsure as services continue, what exactly are we getting ourselves into?
Well, I think in this case, I added that language just because there isn't anything definitive, and and to bind either the LLC, the tribe, or the county here when there's not definitive information seemed imprudent. If the parties are comfortable by just agreeing that they're going to pay the non-federal share regardless of the outcome of the legislation, they can do so. But normally you like to be able to have a little wiggle room if you're going to agree to something brand new to make sure that these costs are something that actually can be paid through a tribal contribution, and that the costs are going to be payable otherwise to the county, et cetera. The financial arrangements and how this particular provision is provided for are not terribly clear at this point. And again, that was just my suggestion to allow for some flexibility. If things change or the agreement changes, then neither the tribe nor the county would be unduly hampered.
Go ahead.
And I guess if I was in their position, I would wait for the feds to say, here's your final answer for what you're getting paid. I just want to make sure we're not accidentally double dipping, where we're asking Pinoleville to reimburse, but yet we get some reimbursement as well from the feds. I just want to make sure that we have the correct guidelines set so that we make sure that we don't get into a position where it looks like, oops, we anticipated not to get a payment, ask Pinoleville to pay, and then afterwards get a payment from the Fed. I just want to make sure that we stay clear on all of that. Just because it's so vague right now as to what will happen.
I'm happy to address that
Go ahead.
if you'll allow.
Yes.
There shouldn't be any lack of certainty at this point concerning, I think, any matter related to economics. We know what the federal rate is because that's posted in the Federal Register every year. So that's an absolutely determined rate for all of 2022. We know that that's the rate we bill, the clinic bills for a patient encounter. And then we know based on the kind of, so there are 4 or 5 different kinds of patients that will come in with respect to Medicaid. So 90/10s, 50/50s. There are a couple others that we may or may not see in the, I think, the minor adolescent categories that New Life Clinic does not treat. But primarily, these Medicaid patients will be either classic Medicaid or the expansion Medicaid patients, and so that's either 50/50 or 90/10. If they're a native patient, it's 100% FMAP that's covered completely by the federal government. So I'm not aware of any lack of clarity as to exactly what the financial arrangements are. And I think we understand, with the help of the additional language that was added for purposes of this tribal contribution, I think we know how the dollars will flow. I think the only thing that is not done yet, and it's not a question that's not answered, it's simply a step that has not been finished, is because you're not a DMC ODS county, the payment mechanism wasn't already established for you. I think Elise made reference to that earlier in the meeting. So once that mechanical step is completed at the state, we understand it's forthcoming, then those funds will flow back to the county. If anybody else has a different impression of the flow of funds, I'm happy to be educated, but I don't believe there's any uncertainty about any of this.
Did you have something to add?
I did. I just want you to be aware too that we have started seeing the minimum amount of funds coming through from the state already. The $14.65 that they're paying the non-tribal members, we have received those for what we have built up. And we, any day now, should be receiving our first check that they are cutting us outside of the normal billing process to cover the first batch of services we build up to them.
They being state or?
The state. Okay. The state cut us a check on the 25th for $297,000.
To correct the difference.
To correct the difference from what we build up and when we noticed the error in their system. So they've already started reimbursing us.
I think that was the last step in my mind. That was the last step in the process, and I think it's purely mechanical, ministerial at this point. I believe all the decisions have been made, and it's just a matter of implementing those decisions and making sure you all get reimbursed from the state.
And I do have emails from the state saying that they will, through the year until they update their system again in July of '23, that they will continue to cut us that portion separate than the just NTP services. So we will have to apply those payments manually instead of through the system that we normally receive payments through.
Ms. Grant, you were going to state something.
The only thing I would say then, in light of the tribal council's statement from the second sentence of B on page 2, you can eliminate to the extent it has the authority to do so. It appears the tribe feels very comfortable, so it begins, the tribe agrees to voluntarily provide. I would make
Yes,
I would make
that right is made clear in federal law. There's a section referenced in the amendment before you to the federal regulation that permits this payback and including a specific reference to Indian tribes. So that is fine from a federal law perspective. And then, of course, this payment by the tribe or contribution by the tribe has been discussed for, heavily for the last several weeks with the HCS, but we originally, the tribe originally brought up this tribal contribution idea to DHCS almost 4 years ago. So it's been on their radar for some time, and we've been talking about it very consistently for the last several weeks with the HCS.
All right, Supervisor Sabatier, and then I'll...
It's just my last question, just to make sure I understand. This is not just referrals from behavioral health of Lake County. This is also walk-ins for people who choose to just go there, but because their residence is in Lake County, we are mandated to take care of this. It's a matter of shrinking the timeline and getting more efficient with the new guidelines of reimbursement and submitting the bills, and the state and the federal government getting us those checks in time where it's not awkward.
Yes,
I don't believe we've actually referred one person.
that's correct.
Why not?
Well, no, that sounds terrible. But we're going to get better
Sorry,
at that.
I shouldn't have asked.
No, that's a great, why haven't we? Because we need to get better at it. We've been wrapping our head around this, but that speaks to the dire need, which we've just talked about in our overdose awareness proclamation presentation. So word spread quickly, and people sought those services so they didn't have to drive to Marysville, Sonoma County, all over. They could just go kind of in their backyard.
Have a presentation. We have a walkthrough scheduled for September 9th that they will be coming to our clinic to do a presentation with our staff so that we can increase those referrals and memorialize the referral process.
All right.
And I would offer to impose on their hospitality, but if any one of you wanted to accompany us on our walkthrough of the New Life Clinic, we'd be happy to extend that invitation.
All right.
Yeah, the tribe is very, very proud of what's been done at New Life Clinic. They've been wanting to help their local community, as they've done for many generations. That's who Pinoleville is. They're very, very proud of this clinic, the work that it's doing. One Together Solutions has brought in a world-class team of experts on OTP administration. And we're, as I think someone referred to earlier, we're broadening the services. Sorry.
All right. Thank you for that. And
broadening the services to dental and other physical health services as well. So happy to show off the clinic to you if you all would like to arrange a time.
all right, thank you. There's no more comments. I'm going to open it up to the public briefly. Come on up and state your name for the record. Come on up. As she's walking up, I'll just state, familiar with Pinoleville. They also, I don't know if it's similar to Pinoleville Voc Rehab, but I know that's been a very auspicious group and program to help a lot of folks that need help from addiction as well. So I know it's another arm that the tribe has, and I know that they've been consistently working in that field for a while. Go ahead and state your name for the record,
Hello.
and we'll go for...
I am Joan Moss. I worked 4 years in Elim, 3 years at Big Valley as a tutor, and I'm still connected. I want to ask some uncomfortable questions, and I'm sorry. How about the portion of Native Americans who are disenfranchised from their tribe? They might have Medi-Cal, they might have benefits. Do they qualify for services? And are they going to be delineated and acknowledged by the Lake County Health Department? Because they, to my knowledge, I still have relationships with quite a few. And they have no relationships. They don't even know their tribal chairman's phone number. And they're trying to get reinstated with the tribe. In the meantime, if they have relatives or they want help, how are they registered with this program? Disenfranchised Native Americans. Thank you.
Thank you, Joan. One thing that I will state is there's disenfranchised, and then there's disenrolled. A lot of that is also based on the tribal health. They usually will serve the members of the tribe. However, in these specific situations, I know that with disenfranchisement, they cut their benefits as well. So I don't know if you had more to elaborate on that, but I just wanted to help clarify what you stated.
Yes, it's a very complex question. The disenrolled, the disenfranchised, their children, their nephews, nieces, cousins.
All right.
There are quite a few of them.
Right. Joan.
And each category is different.
Joan.
You're correct.
Right. Okay. Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
So thank you, Joan, for that question. And I would like to say that you indicated that they have Medi-Cal. They would not be turned away.
Right.
Medi-Cal entitles them to services, and so they would not be turned away.
Right.
As long as they're Lake County residents.
Right. And that's the way I understood it, and I didn't want to go on a tangent about disenrollment because of course, I'm a proponent against it. So, but at the same time, when this situation, thank you for answering it that way, because that's the correct answer. Is there any other public comment? No, I don't see any online. I'll bring it back to the board for further action.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, I did have a question.
Yes.
Do you have to do the resolution for the appropriations before you approve the contract?
I was wondering why we didn't take up 5.7 before 5.6, since it puts us in debt to approve.
That's my fault. I was the one that flip-flopped it around. Thought this would make more sense.
So could we?
I would just table that for just momentarily.
All right, so what I'll do
look
is
at the resolution. Then you'll have the money to approve the contract.
Okay, so what I'll do is I'll table 5.7 briefly and move on to 5.8. And 5.8, it reads as approve the following agreements. A, between the County of Lake and, wrong one.
5.7.
5.7. I
You got it right.
don't know why I clicked that one. Adopt resolution, 5.7, adopt resolution amending resolution number 2021-115, adopting final budget for fiscal year 2021-22 to provide a temporary loan from Behavioral Health Fund 145 to Substance Abuse Disorder Services Fund 141, and cancel reserve designations in Substance Use Disorder Services Fund 141. And Todd.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Grant, for pointing out that, yes, this needs to be approved before we can move on with the other. During this meeting this morning, there was a little bit of a change to the resolution. I'm going to have to turn it over to staff to explain exactly what that is.
1 second. Ms. Grant, you were going to state something.
I think admin staff may have already, I mentioned it to them today. On the second page, it says it was passed and adopted at a regular meeting. Since this is a special meeting, regular will have to be replaced with the word special.
Okay.
But I do believe admin staff has other changes.
Okay.
That correction has been made, and then I have been alerted that there was another correction, and I do apologize, I guess, for the last-minute nature of this resolution and all the last-minute corrections. Unfortunately, we're in a position, as I'm sure you're aware, where if we cannot address this today, it will have negative repercussions for us potentially, and so I'm not necessarily prepared to speak to that. I would more so hope that perhaps Stephen Carter, someone else could speak to that more in a more articulate way.
Yes, I hope Stephen, he told me he'd be, there he is.
All right, Stephen.
Thank you,
You have
Steve.
the floor.
Sorry, I'm actually, good afternoon, well, good morning still, board. So I'm actually doing the final adjustments on the resolution now. So the one that you have on the agenda currently is correct except for down in what accounts need to be adjusted. So under the reserve section, the original one has Fund 145, Budget Unit 4014, with canceling MHSA reserves. It was found a government code that we can't actually loan out MHSA funds, so we are switching it to the housing reserve. So we're asking to cancel the housing reserve and changing it from 515,000 to 600,000, and that's to make sure that there's enough fund balance available or carryover to support this contract. And then the other two changes are down in the adjustments to revenues. So on page 2 of the resolution, and those are just changing the amounts from either negative 515,000 or a positive 515,000 to match the now negative 600,000 and 600,000. That just didn't come out all that well, so I'll go line by line. So Fund 145, account 501, 8093 now would be negative 600,000 instead of negative 515,000. The next line item, 501.8092 out of Fund 141 would be a positive 600,000 instead of 515,000. And then Budget Unit 4015 also in a standard appropriation account 7402380 for professional services, which is where this contract will actually be paid from, is also requested to be switched to 600,000 from 515,000. And to what Anita said, it also has the change to a special meeting versus a standard regular meeting. And this resolution allows the department to pay for the invoices in fiscal year 21-22, where currently there's going to be a negative fund balance available, and we are trying to avoid that at all costs, and so that they can pay these invoices during the proper time period.
Thank you, Stephen. Supervisor Sabatier.
I feel like there's a line being missed. Are we changing the SUDS line from Budget Unit Fund 141 from 479? If we're increasing 515 to the 600, shouldn't that decrease to 479?
No, okay, so that line is going to stay the same, and that's because all of these funds need to go into Fund 141. After canceling all of their reserves, which is $479,001, they also need 600,000 loan from Budget Unit 4014. So that means they need about a little over $1 million to fix this problem.
Except that the loan's no longer from 4014, right?
It's still from 4014. It's down there in the adjustment to revenue section. There's the, well, on the new one at least, it's the 4014 has to cancel reserves to make the funds available. And then down in the adjustments to revenue, that's where 501.8093 is the loan going out to 4015.
I'd like to see it, because it's hard to follow what's going on.
Yeah.
And you said it was still the 4014 budget unit, but it's no longer pulling from MHSA funds, because you said that we weren't able to borrow from that? So it's just a different fund, a different something?
It's a different account that is the reserve. So Fund 145 has multiple reserves. The original one on the resolution was called MHSA Program, and that is no longer, from information we found on government code, is not allowed to be used. So we're converting it, changing this line item right here from the MHSA reserves to the housing reserve that they have also in behavioral health 4014. So we're basically switching which reserve we're lowering.
And that, Steve, that's realignment dollars?
Correct. That's what supplied the funding for the housing reserve.
And the audit settlements doesn't have a similar government code for this is specifically held for audit settlements?
I'll defer to Todd, but this is, to me, substance, SUDS monies set aside for audit settlements. Well, these transactions that they're trying to pay are SUDS related.
That's correct.
So it's not specific to audit settlements, it's just that they had money for SUDS activities that was left over that they could put into reserves in case there was an audit settlement because the state settles up multiple years after.
That's correct, and the entirety of this is due to the need to pay New Life. That's all of the money.
All right.
And that's why we're lowering all of 4015's reserves, which is the audit settlements you see here. Those two amounts together will bring enough to pay the bills. So Supervisor Sabatier, does this new diagram help? Or
No, I appreciate you showing that to us because it was difficult to follow with so many different numbers and so many different changes.
It was hard to say. Let's put it that way as well.
All right. Any other questions? All right. I don't know if I opened public for this. No, I did. No, I didn't. I'll open it to the public briefly. Bring it back to the board for action. I'm not seeing any hands up. It's a resolution.
I'll be honest, I'm a little nervous about the canceling the audit settlements. This was brought to us with canceling MHSA programs. At the last second, we're saying, oops, government code prohibits us from doing that. And right now, we're kind of saying it's part of SUDS, but it's also part of mental health, but yet there's a code that prohibits us. We need to obviously pay the services were rendered, but I'm a little nervous, number one, canceling our audit settlements just to help protect us in case of audits happening, and also not sure where that money came from and what restrictions comes with that money. I didn't receive a very confident, there is no government code prohibiting us, but yet we just made last minute changes for the first part, so I'm a little nervous about that.
Does anyone have an addition to that?
I just wanted to say, I don't know that I'm the appropriate person to speak on this, but I'm comfortable saying that 2011 realignment dollars that stems from mental health to substance use disorder services can be used for this type of event. There are no restrictions as long as it is carved out and applied to substance use disorder services. I am confident in that.
Like to reiterate, probably ad nauseum here, that because the entirety of this amount is from the invoices from New Life, and we anticipate once the dust has settled and we get all of our reimbursement back from the Department of Healthcare Services, and the tribe has also issued their voluntary share of non-federal financial participation, we should have no liability, so that will return to us in full.
In our cost report settlement, 1718 was our last cost report settlement, and I just received payments reimbursing us for money that they owed us. So that is also going towards my accruals back to last fiscal year for the SUD side. So that cost report settlements are being used for that as well.
Stephen had his hand up.
Stephen, would you like to add to that?
No, that I was going to explain some of what they were just explaining. So no further comments.
Thank you, Stephen.
To concur.
All right. Ms. Grant, did you have anything else to add, possibly? No? All right. If there's no other comments, if there's any action to be taken?
So What I would like to ask is for reporting back to the board, making sure that we refill this audit settlement fund. I think it's important to know where we stand, that we're being compensated, whether it's the right amount that we anticipate, whether it's the wrong amount. But I'm just kind of nervous to cancel those types of things just because it's such a dynamic situation and what happens in behavioral health that you never know what could happen. Well, you never know. It's not completely 100% expected what can happen out there, and audit settlements, the reason the money is there is to help protect us in case of those situations that occur. The fact that we're taking so much out without 100% knowing that the reimbursement rates will be the rate that we anticipate, we're still working on that. I'd like to make sure that there's a report coming back to us and letting us know where we stand, where we are, and if we've refilled that budget fund.
Stephen, did you want to add? You had your hand up.
Well, what I was going to bring up is that the state will be paying very soon, so a good chunk of that audit settlement reserve will be going back in. And I agree with the report to say exactly how much does go back in.
All right. All right, with that, looks like Supervisor Simon has his hand up.
If everybody's done with their questions, prepared to move. I just want to make sure we made a lot of changes today. Can we offer this resolution, Anita?
I think you can offer the resolution as amended during this meeting.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. And so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to offer the resolution as amended.
Resolution has been offered. Johanna?
Supervisor Simon?
Yes.
Supervisor Sabatier?
I'm going to, as amended with the reporting?
Yes.
Okay. And the reason I had paused is to be repaid prior to June 30th, and I sure hope that it can be a lot earlier than that, but the reporting will help us out, so aye.
All right. Supervisor Pyska?
Yes.
And Supervisor Crandall?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right. With that, we'll go back to 5.6. We were at action there. Ms. Grant, should I open it up for public comment one more time and read this again one more time, or am I good to just continue where we left off?
I think you're fine unless you have further discussion or make further changes.
Any other further discussion on this item? With that, we're ready for action.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve amendment number 2 between the County of Lake and New Life Health Authority, DBA New Life LLC, for substance use disorder outpatient drug-free services, intensive outpatient treatment services, and narcotic treatment program services for a new contract maximum of $1,688,184 for fiscal year 21-22, and authorize the board chair to sign. Was there a need for any kind of amendments that we discussed? I know we kind of said change B, but then we said no. And I believe we ended with no.
I think that the only open one is if you want to just simply delete to the extent it has the authority to do so, which is the precatory clause of the second sentence in B on page 2, and just state the tribe agrees to voluntarily provide. Given the statements of tribal council, there doesn't seem to be a need for any uncertainty.
As amended as stated by Ms. Grant.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, board.
All right. We're at 12:14. Do we want to finish these other two or just entertain the lunch break?
What other?
We have a 5.5 and 5.3's gone.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't going to say that, but I mean, it's going to be pushed to a later date.
It's a quick one.
Yeah.
Can
So-
5.5 should take just a minute?
Yes. Oh. All right. So I'll go ahead and, she said she needed a minute, right?
2 minutes.
Okay.
You just have their time.
It's just a regular, it's a special, that's all. You just can't say it's a regular meeting when it isn't.
All right. So we'll just go ahead and state that 5.3 was appoint Dr. Carl A. Sporer as Public Health Officer and approve a professional services contract for a term of 6 months for an amount not to exceed $6,000 a month for a term of the agreement, and authorize chair to sign. That's going to be continued on September 13th. And so that's all I had to state for that. Was simply reading that so that way Supervisor Pyska had her time. With that, as that's going to be continued, I'll move on to 5.5, adopt resolution approving agreement number 22-0294-008 SF with California Department of Food and Agriculture to authorize execution of the Asian citrus psyllid winter trapping program in the amount of $10,243 beginning October 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2023. All right. Grant?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This just has the small correction on page 1 at the statement beginning at line 18. This resolution was passed by the Board of Supervisors, County of Lake, State of California, at a regular meeting. This is a special meeting, so you do have to make that change.
Okay. Any comments from the board? Hearing none, open up to the public briefly. I don't see any public input on this item, so I'll bring it back to the board for action.
Mr. Chair, I offer the resolution.
Resolution has been offered.
As amended.
As amended. Thank you.
Resolution has been offered as amended. Johanna?
Okay, Supervisor Simon?
Yes.
Supervisor Sabatier?
Aye.
Supervisor Pyska?
Yes.
And Supervisor Crandall?
Aye.
Thank you.
Let's see, so that covers, Ms. CAO?
Yes, would the board consider doing their calendars now so that when we return, that will begin with the closed session?
That's what I was going, yeah, thank you for that. Supervisor Sabatier, if you'd like to start.
Sure. I think tomorrow is actually fairly open at this moment in time, but Thursday I have a LEMSA meeting. Also supposed to meet with Hope Rising, so I got to figure out how I'm going to make that one work. Looks like the LEMSA meeting popped up after the fact. Then Blue Zones, and then also a meeting with the Continuum of Care. So that's on Thursday. On Friday, come on. Oh, the Lake County campus is of Woodland Community College is doing its 50th anniversary reception planning meeting, so I'll be taking a part in that. And then Lake County Housing Committee also will be meeting that day. Let's see. Then we have a long weekend. I guess that means we're not doing Middle Creek Restoration on that. Didn't we have it just in August?
Yeah,
okay, so we're now in October. Yeah. I guess I still have it on my calendar for every month. Looks like the following week is pretty simple. I have a meeting on Thursday the 8th with Hope Rising and Ag Venture on Friday. I'm looking forward to that invitation because I don't know exactly where we'll be meeting, but last time we got it the week of, so we'll see it then. Then I will be here on Monday, but I will not, on the 12th, that is, but I will not be preparing for the board meeting as I will not be here. I will be visiting Palm Beach, Florida with the Economic Mobility Leadership Network and hope to learn many great things and bring it back here and see what we can implement. That'll be my first field trip with the ELMN, and our next one, I believe, is in Mobile, Alabama, that I will be going to. I'll correct that if that's incorrect. It's funny when you're speaking to a whole bunch of commissioners or supervisors, whatever they're called, depending on the area, across the United States, their definition of rural changes drastically, and they really look down on California as not knowing what rural is. They're like, we have 500 people here. But it's, I think it'll be interesting and entertaining, and I'll be reporting back on that. Unfortunately, I'll be missing some of the other meetings that are happening that week, such as the LTA-APC, but Supervisor Simon will be handling that for our board. Just want to talk about a couple of things. I'm hopeful that we are able to move forward with our issue that we have in our ambulance service right now, that we have a doctor retiring for And the purpose of that doctor is to sign off on our medications for our ambulance system. I did receive some interest from a local doctor or a regional doctor. Hopefully that can work out for us, because we need to fix that before the retirement occurs. It is only on a quarterly basis that usually it needs to be refilled, the prescriptions on our ambulances, but it is absolutely imperative that we fix this before it becomes a problem. I know Chief Cepeda is on it, but it's been a little bit slow to get responses and resolve the problem. I also got an unfortunate email from Bureau of Land Management. Been working with them and a whole bunch of others, including CAL FIRE, to help with the protection of the city of Clear Lake to the east. Our big hurdle was the Cache Creek Wilderness. They have never done fire mitigation in a wilderness area. And I just got the word, and we were feeling good about it, but unfortunately just got the word earlier this week that right now the answer is no. Mechanical mitigation is not possible, and because of the rough terrain, hand tool mitigation is not a possibility. So having some other conversations to figure out how is it that we can protect the city of Clear Lake from that eastern approach for a fire. That's going to be the next part of the conversation, but I'm really, I'm not bummed, I'm actually upset that we're not able to find ways through these processes. But anyways, so that's the big thing that I wanted to share. Other than that, I will come back on the 20th for the next meeting.
Supervisor Simon?
Yeah, finish up with today's meeting. Kind of open this week too, but I do see Thursday there's I haven't attended the Climate Action Collaboration Grant meeting that's been going on with Supervisor Pike. I plan on trying to make that on Thursday. I did have a couple of canceled events. Susan, you're going to be out of town on Friday? Yes. Okay. Obviously this weekend is the Lake County Fair, right? The fair's going on. You got the auction on the weekend. You got everything going on, so please go out and enjoy it. Please be cool. Bring water. It's going to be very warm, but that's a great event in the county. Next week is, oh, you're traveling on the 13th, all right. So next week, Thursday, I have the South Deal Committee meeting with Caltrans, I have the math meeting on Thursday night. We are back on CAO and staff tree meetings as we move forward with the holiday week. Then here Monday, preparing for the meeting on Tuesday, the 13th, and it looks like we're filling things up. I do got to finalize the audit stuff. Supervisor Spatier, I plan on calling here when we get on break. I've been playing phone tag, and hopefully I'll get that taken care of for the RRA and also our AVA program. So I'm going to reach out to Chloe today and get that done. And other than that, that's what I have on the agenda.
All right. Thank you, Supervisor Simon. Vice Chair Pyska.
So I want to thank all the people that came to Cobb last weekend for all the Cobbler Festival events. It was wildly successful and a lot of fun. And so just thanks to everybody who came up for a visit, and thank you to all the volunteers who spent so much time planning such a wonderful weekend. I also have to give a lot of thanks to our fire crews yesterday. We had a lightning strike on Mount Canocti, and being able to get on that very quickly was essential, and that's what they did, and didn't really result in too much of an issue. I do want to encourage everybody to make some plans for this heat wave. It's going to be really difficult for a lot of us, and we have a little bit of time to plan on how you can try and stay cool, and check on your loved ones and your elderly friends who might be vulnerable to the heat. I'm also going to be at the fair a lot this weekend, so it's going to be hot. And just take really good care of yourselves. Tomorrow I have jury duty, so we'll see how that pans out. I left that tomorrow pretty available in case I have to do that. And again, Thursday morning, but I do have a lot of meetings Thursday afternoon, starting with, well, it looks like the main one is the Climate Action Collaborative. And then I will be going to the Blue Ribbon dinner at the fair Thursday evening. Friday, I have a call with After the Fire group, and then I'm going to be at the fair Friday afternoon, and then all evening with my family. Saturday morning, I'm going to go back to the fair for the auction. So exciting to see all those kids who've worked so hard, and last year it was really exciting, so I'm hoping it's going to be another great fair event. Saturday afternoon, there's a photography show at For Family that I want to check. Hopefully I can squeeze that in. There's Fiddler's Jam on Sunday. I don't think I'm going to make that, but it will be a fun day, but again, it's going to be really hot out there. Monday, hopefully I get to relax. Tuesday, I have a meeting with a constituent here in the afternoon. And Wednesday, the 7th, we have TID board meeting and agenda review at the same time.
They always overlap.
Okay. Thursday, the 8th, is our Fire Safe Council meeting. We have our check-in for the Community Visioning Forum on Education, the geothermal meeting in the afternoon, and you got that one?
No, I don't have that one.
Actually, I haven't really heard from them. I just had it on my calendar.
Okay.
So that was at 1:30 on the 8th, and I think I just plugged those in early in the year, so yeah, let's find out about that. Friday, we're having a Strategic Growth Council meeting at 8 a.m. with some of the partners who we're trying to get involved in that application. Then I'm going to have a meeting with Director De Leon with our Canocti Fire Safe Council to talk about how they're going to be helping out with the evacuation grant. Then we're going to have the staff tree meeting, and then I'm going to be meeting with a constituent on Harrington Flat. And Saturday the 10th is the Scotts Valley Big Time that I went to before, and I'm really hoping I can do that again this year. I have another meeting. It's not on my calendar yet, but I know it's sometime that day. And then September 11th is Dia de la Independencia Festival in Kelseyville. Usually I serve margaritas. I haven't been contacted yet, but I'm sure I'll be roped into that, and I will be happy to participate in any way that I can. That is such a fantastic event. And then Monday the 12th, meeting with CAO Parker, community visioning that evening, but there is also a PG&E town hall. That I guess I will miss that, but I think that's important for somebody to watch and know what kind of information they're going to be putting out, because they will be joining us the next day on the 13th. So things aren't slowing down. There's a lot of work to do, and we just got to keep plowing ahead with all of this. So happy to do it.
All right. So that leaves me. So I still have agenda review on my calendar for tomorrow morning. Is that a no-go? Or is it?
Stephen will be, oh, that's right. It's
So that's-
following,
Okay,
it's the
got it.
following Wednesday.
Okay, so I do have a meeting with a constituent tomorrow in the afternoon. Then I have the Worth Special Meeting Town Hall in Upper Lake at 5:30. On the 1st, I'll have a meeting about the SAFER project for the Upper Lake Highway 20 project that I attend in the mornings. And then I think, no, that's not the same day. Okay, and then the rest of the afternoon, I'll be catching up on some constituent updates and follow through. Same with the 2nd. I think, let me see, I'll look at my other calendar because I didn't usually have them all written down. Okay, so yes, on Monday, Monday's Labor Day, so I won't be. CC4C on the 6th, I meet with them in the morning. Afternoon, I have a couple meetings with the people in Upper Lake and Nice. Agenda review on the 7th, and then, of course, East Region Town Hall in the evening time over in Clear Lake Oaks, and then the CSA usually meet out there at Spring Valley. I have the Blue Ribbon Committee meeting at 10 on Thursday. It conflicts somewhat with the South Deal meeting, so I might be sending some stuff to you, Moak. If I can, I also might try to just
Do both of them, yeah.
And yeah, sometimes that works out, sometimes it doesn't, but I have a lot of concerns with the Caltrans, so I'd like to be in on that. But if I don't, I'll send you that. Friday on the 9th, I think is Ag Venture. Is that what you have? Ag Venture, yes, from 9 to 4. The 12th, Monday meeting with CAO Parker, Community Visioning Forum in the evening time, and then back here on the 13th to the Board of Supervisors meeting. With that, it looks like we are at 12:30. So do we want to take a lunch, or?
Yes.
Yeah.
You may want to read the closed session before you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, spaced it. It's closed session. Oh, come on. It just locked up on me. There it goes. Okay, there we go. So 8.1, public employee appointment pursuant to Government Code Section 54957B1, interviews for Community Development Director and appointment of Community Development Director. And 8.2, public employee evaluation, Behavioral Health Director. With that, we will take a lunch break and be back at 1:35, since we're past the 30.
Okay.